Chapter 738. Situlay smiled gently and said, "This brat is already crippled. Earlier, he received 100 moves from us. Now he received 2 heaven-ranked martial techniques. He will not be able to recover within a month." The 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit would ripen in only 4 days. By the time Xiaochen arrived a month later, the white nascent fruit would be gone, and it would be useless. This was also why the two were not in a rush to chase after Xiaochen. Unless one was a martial sage, no one could recover within 4 days from the heaven-ranked martial techniques of 2 half-sages. No matter what, they managed to get rid of a hidden danger. Although they paid a high price, it was all worth it. Lu Chen turned around and smiled. "Old fogey Situ, there is a tricolored flame python guarding the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. How about we work together later?" Situlay laughed loudly and said, "That would be for the best. We cannot let others watch from the sidelines. Naturally, we cannot let a beast take advantage of us." It was rather funny. The two had relaxed expressions and calm gazes. They did not look like mortal enemies who had fought for decades. After the discussion, both sides retracted their forces, no longer paying attention to Xiaochen. A white figure swayed as he descended from the sky above a small river in the periphery of the savage beast forest, landing on the riverbank. Xiaochen raised his head and looked at his pale reflection in the river. He coughed intensely a few times, and blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth, dyeing his white robes red. This time, Xiaochen was severely injured. His internal organs all cracked. He had truly sustained internal injuries. However, his injuries were not as severe as Lu Chen and Situlay made them out to be. Under martial sage, indeed, no one could withstand the attacks of 2 heaven-ranked martial techniques and recover quickly. However, Xiaochen was an exception. His physical body had already reached the standard of a martial sage. Furthermore, his bones had formed an internal defense. In terms of resistance to attacks and recovery, it would not be an exaggeration to say that a regular inferior-grade martial sage could not compare to him. Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, looked at the pale Xiaochen, who occasionally frowned due to the intense pain. Feeling confused, she asked, "Xiaochen, if you had used Soaring Dragon, you would not have suffered such severe injuries, right?" Xiaochen swallowed a healing medicinal pill and squeezed out a smile on his pale face. "There is no need. My goal is the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, not to fight to the death with 2 half-sages. Continuously exposing my strength will only make the 2 of them more wary of me. Why don't I get injured at the right time, and let them think that I can't fight anymore? At that time, I'll give them an unexpected surprise." Being chased by the 2 great clans for the past few days had left Xiaochen mentally and physically exhausted. He had not been able to relax for even a moment. The 2 half-saints were pressing down step by step, and it caused his mind to be strained at all times. It was too exhausting. If this continued and Xiaochen kept putting on a brave front, not only would he fail to obtain the white nascent fruit, but he might even lose his life here. Ao Jiao frowned heavily. She still said with some reluctance, "However, it is still too dangerous for you to continue like this. If they really steeled themselves to continue chasing you, you would be in real danger now." Xiaochen analyzed calmly, "That won't happen. The 2 of them fear each other. If I were no longer a threat, they would not have worked together to suppress me. Furthermore, riches come from danger. Even if they chase me, I will accept it. No one in this world can predict everything." After 3 days, Xiaochen's strong physical body completely recovered. Xiaochen, who was at the riverside, opened his eyes. His delicate face had a ruddy glow, and he looked spirited without any signs of illness. Xiaochen radiated a sharp aura, and his eyes were bright and spirited. His gaze was as sharp as a knife's edge. After stretching his body, Xiaochen took out a black cloak from the universe ring and draped it over himself. He looked into the distance and muttered to himself, "In another day, the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit will ripen. The white nascent fruit will definitely be mine." Xiaochen stretched his arms and soared into the air like a huge bird. Just as he was about to land, a blue dragon image appeared under his feet. Xiaochen pushed off with his feet, and his body flew forward again. In an instant he crossed a kilometer. Xiaochen moved like a black arrow as he quickly moved forward in the forest. After 1 hour, a hill more than 800 meters tall appeared at the limits of his vision. The cultivators of the Situ clan and the Lu clan hid at the foot of the hill. They looked at the summit with fervent gazes. The white nascent fruit was about the size of a fist. With such a long distance, Xiaochen could not see it with his eyes. He could only keep extending his spiritual sense forward. Finally, Xiaochen saw the white nascent fruit hiding at the edge of a crack in the wall. The 4 black petals made the white spirit fruit look exceptionally eye-catching. The spirit fruit was snow-white and as soft as a baby's skin. No one could bear to touch it. Xiaochen extended his spiritual sense, and soon discovered the tricolored flame python guarding not far away. The tricolored flame python was covered in flame tattoos. It was not very thick, only 100 meters long. It could not be compared to the 300-meter-long python that Xiaochen once saw. However, the bewitching tricolored snake crown on its head was like an evil poppy flower, and it was emitting a strange aura. It reminded people that this was a genuine 9th-grade spirit beast that could be compared to a semi-sage realm expert. Xiaochen's spiritual sense noticed Situlei and Lu Chen in the air. The corners of Xiaochen's lips curled up slightly. He pulled down his hood and crossed his arms. Then he stood on a tree branch and waited quietly. Before a storm, there would always be a period of calm. The wind would not blow, and the beasts would not cry out. Everything would be exceptionally quiet, so quiet that it would make one feel sad. At this moment, the hill with the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit was undoubtedly in this period of calm. Situlei and the Lu clan cultivators hid themselves in the grass and trees below the hill. They held their breaths and remained motionless, cautiously watching each other. Everyone knew that no matter which side obtained the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, the other side's clan would suffer a calamity. The families on the other side would suffer a calamity and be expelled from Green Summit City. Their hundreds of years of family business would be completely destroyed. No one could accept such a result. A battle with the other side was unavoidable. The clan heads of the 2 clans chatted cheerfully, standing side by side in the air. Those who did not know what was going on might even think that the 2 were old friends. Situlei looked at the slope and slowly said, "When the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit ripens, it will definitely attract many peak rank 9 spirit beasts. At that time, the disciples of our clans will go and block these foreign spirit beasts. The 2 of us will work together to kill the tricolored flame python. After that, the fight for the white nascent fruit will depend on our own abilities. Brother Lu, what do you think?" Lu Chen smiled calmly and said, "Based on Brother Situ's tone, it seems like you can defeat me and obtain the white nascent fruit." When Situlei heard this, his expression did not change. He put on a superficial smile and said, "Brother Lu must be joking. If I were really confident, your Lu clan would have been chased out of Azure Peak City long ago. Why would I wait until now?" Sly old fox. Lu Chen cursed in his heart. He did not linger on this topic. He said, "Sure, let's go with your suggestion." Situlei had trump cards, but so did Lu Chen. If they relied on their own abilities, Lu Chen was not afraid. As the 2 waited quietly, time slowly went by, and the sky slowly darkened. Normally, the roars of all sorts of beasts could be heard in the savage beast forest at night. Strangely, there was not a single roar tonight. Under the night sky, many pairs of eyes stared at the small hill. No one relaxed at all. In the boundless darkness, time and scene seemed to freeze. Situlei and Lu Chen stood side by side in the air, each with their own ulterior motives. The tricolored flame python beside the white nascent fruit. The cultivators of the 2 clans hid at the foot of the hill like statues. Even further away, there was Xiaochen dressed in a black cloak, leaning against a tree trunk with his arms crossed. Everything formed a strange picture. All that was left was for the white nascent fruit to ripen. When a mountain torrent erupted and a storm arrived, the picture would shatter. Amidst the silence, it was already midnight. Suddenly, the white nascent fruit's 4 black leaves glowed with light. The black leaves were a boundless starry heavens. The motes of light were the twinkling stars in the starry heavens. At this moment, the people who had been waiting for a long time could not help revealing faint excitement in their eyes. The 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit was about to ripen. The tricolored flame python guarding at the side moved its body slightly. It stuck out its forked tongue as it looked greedily at the crystalline, snow-white fruit. Situlé's and Lu Chen's eyes lit up. Even people as astute as them could not help taking a step forward. Even they themselves did not notice it. The cultivators of the two clans hiding at the foot of the hill leaned forward, advancing 5 or 6 meters in unison. At this moment, some ripples appeared in the quiet picture. Aside from the young, black-cloaked bladesman standing on the distant tree trunk, who remained as calm as before, everyone else in the picture could not resist the temptation. All the people in the picture could not resist the temptation, and took a step forward. The motes of starlight on the leaves increased in number and grew brighter. In this boundless darkness, they became even more eye-catching. Xiao Chun, who was far away, could see them clearly. The thousands of motes of light flickered, looking very beautiful. They overshadowed the white nascent fruit's luster, giving off the feeling of a guest stealing the spotlight. However, everyone knew that this was only temporary. No matter how bright a supporting character was, he was just a supporting character in the end. Suddenly, a fiery light appeared in the middle of the flickering motes of starlight. The light was like the blazing sun, instantly suppressing the motes of light. It was like the sun quietly hiding in the night sky. When it released its light, even the dazzling stars would lose their brilliance. How could the light of a grain of rice compete with the sun and the moon? The moment the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit released its light, it shone brightly. A vast and boundless spiritual energy surged out into the surroundings. The multicolored light in the sky looked like snowflakes drifting down, filling the sky with auspicious signs. Roar! The 5-colored auspicious sign, and the spiritual energy that leaked out from the spirit fruit spread far and wide in an instant. The powerful roar of a beast resounded throughout the sky and earth. The ground trembled. As the peak rank 9 spirit beast ran for its life, the shock waves actually reached this place in an instant. My Situ clan disciples, heed my orders. Guard the hill. Do not let any spirit beast near. My Lu clan disciples, heed my orders. Guard the hill. Do not let any spirit beast near. Situlé and Lu Chen shouted at nearly the same time. The instant they spoke, their figures moved like lightning, arriving beside the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. Chapter 739. Without saying a word, they each sent a palm strike, sending the tricolored flame python, which wanted to swallow the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, flying. The tricolored flame python tumbled in the air before landing at the foot of the slope. Then it glared angrily at Situlé and Lu Chen, who were plotting against it. Move further away and deal with this beast. If we destroy the white nascent fruit, it will be over. Situlé's spear trembled. Before the tricolored flame python could react, he took the initiative to attack. Lu Chen quickly followed with a surging killing chi. The tricolored flame python was about as strong as the two. Normally, if they met alone, they might not be able to deal with this beast even after putting in a lot of effort. However, today they ran into two half-sages determined to obtain the white nascent fruit. No matter how strong the tricolored flame python was, it could not reverse the situation. 2 men and 1 snake started an intense battle on the slope. With the two working together, they suppressed the tricolored flame python until it could not cause any trouble. At the same time, the battle at the foot of the slope also started. Hundreds of elite cultivators of the two clans worked together to defend against the rank 9 spirit beasts rushing over frantically. The battle at the foot of the slope was much more bloody than the one at the top. Although there were no peak rank 9 spirit beasts, there were more of them. The cultivators of the two clans defended bitterly, but they still paled in comparison. Casualties occurred at every moment. At this moment, the peaceful scene was completely torn apart. Miserable cries, beast roars, quintessence explosions, and all sorts of chaotic noises rang out endlessly. Under the hood, Xiao Chen stared at the white nascent fruit, which still gave off a bright light. He entered deep thought. After a while, Xiao Chen gently pushed off the ground like a ghost in the night. He silently flew forward, flying higher and higher until he hid himself in a cloud. Xiao Chen controlled the wind and carried the cloud to the top of the white nascent fruit. The people in the intense battle all had nervous expressions. No one noticed this scene. A dark cloud in the sky slowly approached the white nascent fruit. When the cloud descended to 2 kilometers, Xiaochen stopped and looked at Situlei and Lu Chun, the 2 half-sages that posed the greatest threat to him. The tricolored flame python was already covered in wounds. The poisonous flames it spat out were growing thinner, and the threat it posed to the 2 was diminishing. Seeing that the tricolored flame python was about to die, Situlei and Lu Chen's movements gradually slowed down. The distance between them had unknowingly increased. A strange light flickered in their eyes as they stared at each other. Their main focus was no longer on the tricolored flame python. The pitiful tricolored flame python had nearly died. Due to various reasons, Situlei and Lu Chen had hung it up, refusing to give it a quick death. Situlei's spear light swept out, and the 3-colored flame flew up. The momentum was astonishing, but in fact, it did not use much strength at all. Lu Chen kicked the tricolored flame python flying at him back. Then he smiled indifferently and said, "Brother Situ, I'll leave the final strike of this beast to you." Situlei smiled calmly and said, "Brother Lu, you go first. With your movement technique, you will definitely be able to easily dodge the counterattack of the tricolored flame python before its death." "Haha. Brother Situ, you go first. How can this old man's strength compare to yours? Before any spirit beast died, it would make a desperate counterattack." These 2 were crafty. Clearly, they did not want to endure this final strike. Just as these 2 were pushing each other away, a black figure suddenly descended from a cloud above the white nascent fruit. This figure moved astonishingly fast. The direction in which he appeared caught everyone off guard as well. A figure flashed. Situlei and Lu Chun, who were chatting with each other, could not react at all. Someone snatched away the glowing white nascent fruit. When the 2 of them looked back, they saw a black figure carrying the white nascent fruit, rushing down the mountain quickly. Situlei's and Lu Chen's mouths gaped open in shock. When they reacted, they became enraged. "How bold! How dare he snatch away the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit from under our noses?" Situlei roared ferociously and chased after the black figure in a frenzy. After planning for such a long time, someone snatched away the treasure at the last moment. No one could accept such a disappointment. Boom! Spear lights trembled, and sword lights flickered. In their rage, Situlei and Lu Chen each sent out a move. A blue ball of sword light and a roaring fire dragon charged at the black figure, trying to block him. The black figure seemed to have eyes on the back of his head. He pushed off the ground and leaped up, easily dodging the 2 fatal attacks. The fire dragon and the ball of sword exploded, creating a strong shockwave that surged out. The 2 raged. In order to block that black figure, they frantically ran, sending all sorts of attacks at Xiaochen. Bang! 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 Quintessence surged, and rocks flew out. The horrifying shockwave created a strong wind, cutting the surroundings like knives. Although Xiaochen dodged all these attacks, the black cloak he wore was already in tatters. It was no longer useful, so he casually took it off. The moment the white clear wind robes appeared, Situlei and Lu Chen immediately recognized Xiaochen. They were dumbfounded. How can this be? He is so severely injured. How can he appear in such a short time? The shock in the 2's eyes was extreme. They could not help but stop what they were doing. They stared at Xiaochen in a daze. After so many schemes and plans, after so many rounds of searching, in the end, this 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit still ended up in the hands of an outsider. Ignore those spirit beasts. Block him. When the 2 recovered their wits and saw that Xiaochen had already run far away, they shouted at the disciples at the foot of the mountain. Instantly, hundreds of martial monarchs abandoned the spirit beasts they were fighting and launched themselves at Xiaochen. So. Many figures flew out, their quintessence surging. 200 or 300 martial monarchs appeared together. Their auras merged into one, looking like a vast mountain range before Xiaochen. There were close to 300 martial monarchs. Although their cultivations varied, if they attacked together, even a half-sage would not dare to clash head-on. Xiaochen's face sank, and his sea of consciousness surged. He quickly circulated the dragon tone art in his body, draining his quintessence and mental energy at the same time. The dragon-shaped quintessence circulated in his body, and resounding dragon roars resounded continuously. When Xiaochun felt the explosive energy in his chest, he opened his mouth and roared. The vigorous true dragon's voice immediately surged out. The wind howled, and dragon's might spread out. The resonant dragon's voice was like a clap of thunder, ear-splitting. When the sound wave spread out, the trees in the way gave off crisp cracking sounds as they all snapped in half. The close to 300 martial monarchs felt a strong wind blow at them. They could not even open their eyes. Those with weaker cultivations were even knocked back. What was even more horrifying was that the dragon's might contained in the sound wave, infused with surging mental energy. When it entered these people's seas of consciousness, it sounded like thunder roared in their minds. His entire head was in a daze, and the movements of his hands stopped for a moment. Taking advantage of this moment, Xiaochun stood on the blue dragon image and charged over. The ferocious impact knocked the people in front of him into the air like sandbags. By the time these people recovered their wits, Xiaochun had already taken advantage of this moment to cross the crowd and run far away. When Situlei and Lu Chen saw this scene, they were flabbergasted. Even though they were very knowledgeable, they had never heard of such a strange martial technique in the world before. By the time the two of them regrouped and chased away all the rank 9 spirit beasts around the slope, Xiaochun had already disappeared without a trace. How hateful! Situlei clenched his teeth, and his complexion turned ashen. He stomped heavily on the ground, causing the mountain to tremble. Even if Lu Chen had snatched away the white nascent fruit, Situlei would not have felt so sullen. However, he could not accept a nameless brat snatching away the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. Lu Chen's expression was scarily unsightly as well, even worse than Situlei's. Originally, his Lu clan was the first to discover the white nascent fruit. In his heart, the Lu clan had already treated the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit as their family treasure. The Lu clan had put in a lot of effort, mobilized many people and lost many elites. In the end, it ended up benefiting someone else. How could Lu Chen accept this? After the white nascent fruit is picked, it has to be consumed within 12 hours. Any storage space is useless. This person cannot get far. We still have a chance, Situlei said with a sullen expression when he thought of something. If one did not pick the white nascent fruit in its entirety, it was best to consume it right after it was picked. Otherwise, the spiritual energy contained in it would slowly leak out. If one did not consume it within 12 hours, the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit would become an ordinary spirit fruit, no longer as miraculous as before. Lu Chen's eyes lit up with hope. That's right. He will not be able to leave the savage beast forest within 12 hours. If our two clans work together, we will definitely be able to find him. The two clans both had strongholds in the savage beast forest. They had far more people than Situlei and Situlei. The cultivation of the others might be weaker, but there were not many requirements for them to search for someone. On the other side, Xiaochun ran for 5 kilometers before he stopped. He felt something wrong in the universe ring. He sent his spiritual sense in, and discovered spiritual energy permeating the space within the universe ring. It was like a mist spreading everywhere. When he looked carefully, it turned out that the vast spiritual energy contained in the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit was leaking out continuously. Even though a large amount of spiritual energy leaked out from the dazzling spirit fruit, it did not show any signs of dimming. This made one sigh. No wonder the two clans would use their entire clans to fight for it. However, continuing to leak out was not a solution. Even a fool could tell that something was wrong. Xiaochun asked doubtfully, "Ao Jiao, what's going on?" Ao Jiao said with some pity, "Quickly consume it. Otherwise, its effects will be greatly reduced. It would have been great if we had uprooted it. It would have been even better if the roots were intact. That way, we could have transplanted it into the immortal spirit ring." Xiaochun smiled bitterly. Ao Jiao made it sound easy. At that time, it could be said that he had plucked it from the hands of 2 half-sages. If not for these 2 half-sages fearing each other and harboring ulterior motives, he would not have stood a chance. It would be very difficult to refine this 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit in a short time. The two clans would definitely send people to search for him. Chapter 740. If someone interrupted him during the refinement process, the consequences would be dire. At best, he would be severely injured. At worst, he might even lose his life. Unexpectedly, after obtaining the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, there would be so much trouble. The joy in Xiao Chen's heart slowly cooled. He felt conflicted. The two clans were very familiar with this place. No matter how well he hid, they would find him. 3 days ago, when he was being chased, he had not been able to relax for even a moment. Ao Jiao urged, "Stop dilly-dallying. Quickly refine it. Otherwise, the medicinal effects will weaken." Being afraid of wolves in front and tigers behind was not Xiao Chen's character. Steeling himself, Xiao Chen looked around and found a dense bush. After making some simple disguises, he sat down cross-legged and took out the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit from the universe ring. A regular white nascent fruit could live for 500 years at most. A 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit was definitely a mutated fruit, comparable to a rare treasure. It was not much less valuable than dragon marrow. After calming himself, Xiao Chen's expression turned completely calm. Then he swallowed the white nascent fruit. The white spirit fruit was fragrant and sweet. It melted in his mouth. Before Xiao Chen could savor the taste, the white nascent fruit turned into a warm current flowing through his body. Boom! The medicinal energy took effect in a moment. Xiao Chen's skin and hair all turned crystalline, flickering with light and giving off a radiance. This was especially so for Xiao Chen's head of black hair, which fluttered in the wind. He looked like ancient jade, filled with a boundless charm. The surroundings of Xiao Chen's dantian surged. The warm current that the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit turned into fell like rain. Every drop of rain contained surging heaven and earth spiritual qi, and they fell without stopping. Xiao Chen's cultivation soared continuously, showing no signs of stopping. Soon, he touched the formless bottleneck of superior-grade martial monarch. The spiritual energy contained in the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit far surpassed Xiao Chen's expectations. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it contained a vast amount of spiritual energy. Now, Xiao Chen even regretted using this 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit to break through to superior-grade martial monarch. Perhaps it would be even better if he used it when he was trying to break through to the half-saint realm in the future. However, this thought passed in an instant. Not to mention the fact that the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit could only be found and not sought. The purple thunder divine incantation that Xiao Chen cultivated required far more quintessence than ordinary people. The white nascent fruit that others could use to break through to half-sage might not have the same effect on him. Boom! The vast spiritual energy gushed like a river. After a few hits, it broke through the formless bottleneck of superior-grade martial monarch. However, the jade-like luster on Xiao Chen's body did not weaken at all. His 3,000 strands of hair flickered with fluorescent light, fluttering in the wind. A surging energy flowed through Xiao Chen's body. He felt very carefree. At this moment, he finally advanced to superior-grade martial monarch. However, what delighted Xiao Chen even more was that the spiritual energy in the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit did not run out. In the world around Xiao Chen's dantian, droplets of rain fell continuously. Just one drop of rain was equivalent to 1 day of cultivation. Xiao Chen's cultivation continued to advance. After 1 hour, as he continuously refined the spiritual energy, he completely stabilized his cultivation as a superior-grade martial monarch. The spiritual energy in the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit had not run out yet. Xiao Chen quickly made a decision. He would make use of this opportunity to break through to late-stage superior-grade martial monarch. After making up his mind, Xiao Chen started to refine his quintessence. He turned the unending but slightly loose spiritual energy into thick and heavy purple lightning-attributed quintessence. Time slowly went by. With the help of the white nascent fruit, Xiao Chen's quintessence was completely solid in less than 1 hour, becoming as heavy as a mountain. Without hesitation, Xiao Chen took out a quintessence-gathering pill and swallowed it. Then he started to refine his dense purple quintessence a second time. The carefree feeling in Xiao Chen's body vanished. Replacing it was the intense pain of refining quintessence twice. Bean-sized beads of sweat rolled down Xiao Chen's forehead. He clenched his teeth and endured bitterly, silently enduring the pain of the quintessence-gathering pill. Even though Xiao Chun had already experienced it twice, this experience still made his soul tremble. His entire body ached, and he wished he could stop immediately. Since ancient times, countless people had tried to refine their quintessence twice. Most of them could not endure it and gave up. The remaining few could not endure it and died from the pain. A strong physical body and an indomitable will. Only by having both could one successfully refine their quintessence twice. Otherwise, even if one was a demonic genius that only appeared once in 10,000 years, it would not work. The heart-wrenching pain constantly questioned Xiao Chen's heart, asking if he had clearly seen his own path, if he really knew what he wanted. The path of a cultivator was filled with thorns and endless bumps. No matter how much effort and sweat one put in, one might not reach the peak in the end. Would one's heart waver? Would one still have the courage to endure this boundless pain? Xiao Chen's heart did not waver. His past beliefs became even firmer as he questioned himself. Xiao Chen never doubted his own path. Not in the past, not now, not in the future. Dong. Dong. Look around. The clan head said that as long as we find that brat, we do not need to capture him to obtain a great reward. Urgent footsteps resounded. At this crucial moment, the cultivators of the Situ clan and the Lu clan had actually arrived. If someone injured him while he was consuming the quintessence-gathering pill, he would definitely enter a berserking chi deviation. Xiao Chen quickly thought about it and decided to give up on this opportunity. Although the loss was great, compared to entering a berserking chi deviation, he had no other choice. Don't move. Focus on refining your quintessence. Absorb all the medicinal liquid in the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. I'll block these people for you. Before Xiao Chen could reply, Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, flew out with a whoosh. The simple disguise that Xiao Chen laid immediately tore a hole. The cultivators of the two clans immediately discovered Xiao Chen's jade-like luster in the dark forest. We found him. Quick in form. The person who spoke was incredibly excited, attracting the attention of the search team. But before he could finish speaking, a beautiful figure flickered over, blood splattered, and his head flew into the air. Only now did the others notice that at some point in time, a pretty girl with a frosty expression was hovering in the air. Ao Jiao held two short sabers made of light in her hands. Without saying anything, she charged at the remaining people. Most of the search team were only martial kings. How could they be a match for Ao Jiao? Lights flickered, and they fell one after another. This startled the leader of the search team. He turned around and ran, quickly activating the alarm mechanism hidden in his sleeve. An ear-piercing buzzing sound immediately radiated in all directions like ripples. The sound swept through the many trees. After a while, all the cultivators within 50 kilometers heard the commotion. Pussy. The lightsaber in Ao Jiao's hand flew out and nailed the person who successfully triggered the alarm to a tree. The search team of 11 people died in a few breaths of time. The temporary danger was resolved. However, an even greater danger was about to arrive. Sensing two strong auras flying over at lightning speed, Ao Jiao could not help but frown slightly, feeling very worried. Two clumps of light descended from the sky, releasing horrifying energy ripples. They blasted many trees into pieces and filled the air with dust. Situ Lei and Lu Chen walked out of the dust cloud expressionlessly, holding their weapons in their hands. The two looked around and immediately discovered Xiao Chen, whose entire body gave off a jade-white glow. Rage burned in their eyes. This brat was actually refining the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. Now, even if they killed this brat, they would not be able to retrieve the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. In their rage, the two rushed forward, wanting to chop Xiao Chen into pieces to vent the hatred in their hearts. Chong! Chong! Ao Jiao descended calmly from the sky. She brandished the two sabers in her hands and blocked the attacks of the two. Her exquisite saber techniques were executed miraculously. The cold light was piercingly cold, and it forced the two of them, who were not prepared for it, to retreat in a single exchange. Item spirit? After they landed, Lu Chen and Situ Lei exchanged strange glances. Then they rejoiced and looked at Ao Jiao with a fervent gaze. Situ Lei's spear trembled as he laughed softly. I have long felt that this brat's saber is strange. Unexpectedly, it actually gave birth to an item spirit. Lu Chen smiled sinisterly and said, a treasured saber with an item spirit. Even if we split it evenly, it would be more than sufficient to make up for our losses. As half-sages, the two were naturally more knowledgeable than ordinary people. They immediately figured out Ao Jiao's identity and rejoiced in their hearts. Ao Jiao floated quietly on the ground. When she saw the greedy gazes in the two's eyes, she could not help but smile coldly. Who do you think you are? After receiving the Thunder King's inheritance, the lunar shadow saber, do you think that just anyone can grasp it? Situle's eyes lit up as he laughed loudly. No wonder this brat is so strong. So, he is the inheritor of the Thunder King. It looks like we are going to make a big profit this time. Watch how I subdue you. Xiao. Situle's figure flashed, and his spear turned into a fire dragon as he charged at Ao Jiao. The strong state of fire was accompanied by vast quintessence. Its might was incredibly startling. Lu Chen did not want to fall behind. A blue light surged on his sword as he quickly followed. Since the Thunderwood sword broke, Ao Jiao had not recovered her strength. She had been reborn in the lunar shadow saber. Even so, she barely reached the combat prowess of a medial-grade martial monarch. In terms of cultivation, Xiaochen was no match for the two. Fortunately, her saber techniques and combat techniques far surpassed theirs. She could still deal with the two for a while. However, as time dragged on, the situation slowly turned for the worse. Under their relentless attacks of quintessence exhaustion, Ao Jiao found it increasingly difficult to hold on. Bang! An opening appeared in Ao Jiao, and Situle took advantage of it. His spear swept out and sent Ao Jiao's weak body flying. Little girl, you still dare to boast? Do this old man have the qualifications to wield the lunar shadow saber? Situle laughed maniacally and took advantage of the situation to attack. A fire dragon circled his spear, forcing Ao Jiao to retreat again and again. Chapter 741. Boom. A blue sword ball gave off a metallic sword hum as it flew towards Ao Jiao, who was being held back by Situle. This sword ball was made up of thousands of strands of sword qi. If struck, it would feel like someone had swung thousands of swords. This was Lu Chen's unique killing move. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to take down Ao Jiao in one move and force her to submit. Just at this critical moment, the jade-like Xiaochen in the bushes behind suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes gleamed with an unparalleled sharpness. The light withdrew, and Xiaochen's gaze turned cold and emotionless. He leaped up and gathered a vast lightning-attributed quintessence in his right hand. Xiaochen clenched his fist and punched, striking the blue sword ball flying at him. Electric light exploded like a flame, and the boundless sword qi hidden in the blue sword ball was scattered by this punch. It turned into sword winds and scattered in all directions. After shattering Lu Chen's fatal strike with one punch, Xiaochen looked at Situle, who was attacking Ao Jiao relentlessly. His cold eyes did not contain any emotion. An azure dragon image appeared under Xiaochen's feet and carried him forward. Then Xiaochen punched without hesitation. Thunder roared in the sky, and the flickering electric light on his fist looked like it would last forever. Xiaochen's long hair fluttered in the wind. Under the illumination of the electric light, he looked like a war god descending, filled with might. The instant Xiaochen got close, he activated the ancient sovereign's aura. A vast and epic aura pressed down like a mountain, causing Situle's movements to pause. Bang! Taking advantage of this fleeting opportunity, Xiaochen's fist, flickering with purple electric light, quickly smashed into Situle's chest. Bang! When Xiaochen's fist landed on Situle's chest, it gave off a thunderous sound. The lightning streaked across the sky, and a vast lightning-attributed quintessence poured into Situle's body through his chest. Situle's head full of black hair, qi, all of them were electrocuted, his face was pale, and his body flew backward. Ao Jiao, come in. I'll help you fight back how these people beat you. Looking at the two people in front of him expressionlessly, Xiaochen's eyes surged with killing intent, and his aura continued to rise. The flickering lightning illuminated his delicate face, making it look particularly eye-catching. A smile appeared on Ao Jiao's pale face. This sentence was enough for her. There was never a need to doubt Xiao Chen's words. Once he said it, he would definitely do it. The weakened Ao Jiao turned into a beam of light and entered the immortal spirit ring. Situ Lai and Lu Chen looked at Xiao Chen with bewildered expressions. As half-sages, they actually felt a little timid before Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen shattered Lu Chen's sword ball with one punch and sent Situ Lai flying with another. The strength that Xiao Chen displayed after consuming the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit far surpassed the two's expectations. Xiao Chen gently waved his left hand, and the lunar shadow saber appeared in his grasp. Then he looked at the two and said indifferently, "Make your move. Let me see what qualifications you have to take my lunar shadow saber." Lu Chen and Situ Lai exchanged glances. They could see incredulity in each other's expressions. The white-robed bladesman, who they chased twice and forced to flee miserably, actually took the initiative to challenge them. "Since you want to die so much, I, Situ Lai, will grant your wish." Situ Lai could no longer endure the disdainful gaze in Xiao Chen's eyes. He roared ferociously and brandished his spear, taking the initiative to attack. 9 berserk fire dragons soared behind him. Guided by the spear, they quickly flew towards Xiao Chen. Lu Chen's expression turned cold. He glanced at the lunar shadow saber in Xiao Chen's hand, and a greedy expression appeared on his face. Then he quickly followed up and launched 9 star-like blue sword balls. The two's attacks were the heaven-ranked martial techniques that defeated Xiao Chen previously. They intended to severely injure Xiao Chen again, not giving him any chance to flee this time. Unfortunately, the two did not know that Xiao Chen had purposely lost the previous time. Now Xiao Chen's cultivation had improved greatly. Not only had he advanced to superior grade martial monarch, but he had also refined his quintessence twice. The current Xiao Chen was no longer the same as before. How could he care about these two moves? Grasping the saber hilt with his right hand, Xiao Chen leaned forward slightly. He circulated his energy for the dragon subduing slash. The soaring aura slowly withdrew and hid itself. Xiao Chen remained as motionless as a mountain. He was like a true dragon in hibernation, continuously calculating the trajectories of the two's killing moves with his eyes. Only when the two heaven-ranked martial techniques were only 8 meters away from him did Xiao Chen suddenly make a move. He turned into a true dragon and took a light step forward. With just one step, the ground split open with a loud bang, and a black crack spread out in front of him. Hidden dragon in the abyss. A gentleman plans before taking action. Soaring dragon in the sky, shocking the world with a single brilliant feat. Xiao Chen soared into the air. Following the feeling in his heart, he naturally drew the lunar shadow saber. It was like a true dragon furiously swinging its claws. The might of a true dragon soaring into the air. The rage of a true dragon, unstoppable. Bang! The saber light was very dazzling. Situ Lai's 9 clumps of flames howled miserably at this soaring saber strike. They turned into sparks and scattered. Lu Chen's 9 sword orbs that resembled starlight directly exploded, and the sword chi hidden within them shot out in all directions like a celestial maiden. The shock waves of the sword chi blasted deep pits on the ground, creating a scene of devastation. After breaking the killing moves of the two, Xiao Chen's momentum did not decrease. He launched a great counterattack at the two. Xiao Chen had refined his quintessence twice. Now, when it came to competing with quintessence, he no longer feared the two. By relying on his strong physical body, he dared to fight, not fearing injury. In the air, Xiao Chen's aura flourished. He brandished his saber and executed all sorts of martial techniques, forcing Situ Lai and Lu Chen to continuously retreat. After 100 moves, Situ Lai and Lu Chen felt their blood churning. Their internal organs trembled violently. The flowing electric light rampaged in their bodies. In the past, the two of them had used their cultivation to suppress Xiao Chen, forcing Xiao Chen into a sorry state within 100 moves. Now the situation was reversed. With the same level of quintessence, the advantage of Xiao Chen's physical body showed itself. Similarly, after receiving 100 moves, his strong physical body blocked most of the energy. As Xiao Chen's long hair fluttered, his delicate face appeared very relaxed. The show was just beginning. Spring thunder chop. Burning to desolation. Fated person in autumn water. Grieving frost. The four-season saber technique, which was only slightly weaker than a heaven-ranked martial technique, was easily executed by Xiao Chun like he was eating or drinking, forcing Situlei and Lu Qin into an even more sorry state. Cycle of Seasons, Endless Growth. The cycle of seasons, which could rival most heaven-ranked martial techniques, swept out endlessly with the power of the cycle of seasons. The thunder of spring, the fire of summer, the wind of autumn, and the frost of winter. The mysterious phenomenon of the cycle of seasons was perfectly infused into Xiao Chen's saber technique. When he swung his saber, he sent the two, whose qi and blood were already unstable, flying back while vomiting blood. The two of them landed on the ground with a loud bang. The huge impact caused the ground to tremble and dust to fill the air. The two pairs of eyes filled with fear as they looked at Xiao Chun. If they had only been shocked earlier, then now, they were filled with utter horror. Unexpectedly, two half-sages were suppressed by a superior-grade martial monarch, to the point where they vomited blood, and could not breathe. Since when did such a demonic genius appear in the Tianwu domain? Unexpectedly, they did not know about it. Situlei struggled to his feet and held his spear. He said in a deep voice, "Old Fogey Lu, even if you underestimate me, you really cannot hold back." As you say. Lu Chen's expression was equally grave. He said indifferently, "If we do not kill him today, given his talent, the two of us will not stand a chance in the future." In the air, Xiao Chen stood on the blue dragon image. His white robes fluttered as he watched the two half-sages prepare to use their trump cards. His delicate and handsome face did not show any fear. It was as Xiao Chun had said in the past. There were strong and weak half-sages. Murong Lingfeng had casually slaughtered Gumu and the others like him like pigs and dogs. Clearly, the two people from before were only on the same level as Gumu. They were much weaker than the seven giants. As long as Xiao Chun could close the gap in quintessence, he would not fear these two. Since they wanted to kill him, he did not want to leave any loose ends. This time, Xiao Chun would put an end to all his grudges. Boundless Sea of Fire. 9-star Heavenly Explosion. Situlei and Lu Qin shouted at the same time. The two of them no longer held back, executing their killing moves without holding anything back. When facing the current Xiao Chun, holding back would be no different from sending themselves to death. Whether it was success or failure, the two of them placed all their bets on this final move. A boundless sea of fire spread out from Situlei's body. Blazing flames stretched as far as the eye could see. The mysterious phenomenon looked very real. The heat waves coming from it made everyone feel a scalding heat. It felt like even the air would melt under this sea of fire. A huge wave of fire surged over the sea of fire. As Situlei stood on the sea of fire, a ring of red flames appeared around him. His entire body was immersed in the flames as he tossed out the spear in his hand. It carried a boundless might as it flew towards Xiao Chun along with the boundless huge waves. The fire wave wanted to drown Xiao Chun, and the spear light wanted to pierce through Xiao Chun. The boundless hatred in Situlei's eyes was all focused on this move. On the other side, Lu Chen's 9-star Heavenly Explosion had a horrifying might. It did not look any weaker than Situlei's. 9 dazzling blue balls of swords as bright as the sun formed a ring in the sky and spun rapidly. Lu Chen stood in the middle of the ring with his sword upright. He placed his left hand on the sword and circulated his quintessence continuously. The 9 blue balls of swords spun rapidly. In the end, they were no longer 9 balls of swords. Instead, they formed a ring-shaped storm of swords. Within the ring-shaped storm of swords, the buzzing of countless swords could be heard. 10,000 swords clashed with each other, clanging endlessly. Die. In an instant, the two of them completed their killing moves in practically an instant. They carried an overwhelming might as they charged at Xiao Chun. Only a scarlet flame and the huge ring-shaped storm of swords could be seen. Xiao Chun's body was instantly drowned in it. Chapter 742. After executing their trump cards, the two appeared extremely fatigued. Their quintessence was drained, and they placed all their hopes on these two moves. Situlei panted slightly as he muttered, "It's time to end this." Even the strongest half-sage would not be able to escape unscathed from a medial-grade heaven-ranked martial technique that exhausted all our quintessence. No matter what, this brat was just a superior-grade martial monarch. No matter how demonic he was, he would not be able to escape death after 2 half-sages cut off all means of retreat. Lu Chen had the same thought in his heart. His gaze was urgent, anxious to know how badly Xiaochen would end up when he was swallowed up. Bang! Suddenly, a bright golden light shot out from the sea of fire. The two, who had lost the protection of their quintessence, felt a stinging pain in their eyes like needles. A loud explosion resounded in the boundless sea of fire. The horrifying shock wave formed thick clouds that soared into the sky. A deep, spiral-shaped pit a kilometer wide appeared in the ground. When all the dust and debris soared into the sky, Situlei and Lu Chen finally saw the situation inside. The white-robed Xiaochen had his hair fluttering in the wind. His delicate face was in high spirits. He did not look injured at all. A strange flame diagram hovered in the air in front of Xiaochen. It flickered with golden light and materialized everything in the world, including the entire world. That's impossible. Unexpectedly, he is not injured at all. What kind of strange martial technique is that? Unexpectedly, he blocked the full-powered heaven-ranked martial techniques of 2 half-sages. Situlei and Lu Chen goggled. It was like they saw the most inconceivable thing in the world, something that surpassed their understanding. Xiaochen's gaze turned cold. He did not give the two much time to react, as he gently waved his right hand. The Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram shot forward. The 8 trigrams, the 4 divisions, and the world all entered it. 1 yin and 1 yang. The 2 flames chased each other, making the golden light of the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram even more dazzling. It looked like the sun, eternal and inextinguishable. Bang! Bang! 2 loud sounds rang out. Lu Chen and Situlei, who did not have any quintessence left, could not resist at all. The Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram knocked them into the air one after another. His body was like a kite with a broken string, swaying in the air. Xiaochen's face sank, and he pushed down with a flip of his hand. Pooh! As dust flew up, 2 half-sages, who were once famous, were crushed into meat paste by Xiaochen. With a thought, the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram stuck to the ground slowly disappeared. Finally, it turned into 2 beams of light, one white and one purple, returning to Xiaochen's eyes. Xiaochen closed his eyes and staggered, almost falling down. After the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram reached great perfection, this was the first time Xiaochen used it in actual combat. Due to his lack of experience, he had exhausted too much mental energy. If he could control it well, he could completely reduce the power and not waste his mental energy. 5,000 meters away, the Situ and 2 clans' cultivators had already arrived. However, the battle between Xiaochen and the 2 half-sages had already reached its climax. They could not interfere at all. Originally, everyone thought that Xiaochen would die for sure. However, the result exceeded their expectations. Unexpectedly, a superior-grade martial monarch managed to kill 2 half-sages. Furthermore, he did it in such a tyrannical manner, crushing them into meat paste. When the cultivators saw Xiaochen resting with his eyes closed, they were horrified. They did not dare to advance at all. After a long time, Xiaochen opened his eyes and gently drifted over. Soon, he arrived before the 2 corpses that no longer resembled human corpses. When Xiaochen thought back to his encounters in the past few days, he realized that he had fought a battle of wits and courage with these 2 strong old foxes. He had been in danger of death several times. By relying on his solid foundation and extraordinary calmness and decisiveness, Xiaochen had the last laugh in the end. Not only had Xiaochen obtained the rare 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit and advanced to superior-grade martial monarch, but he had also killed 2 half-sages. After taking the 2 spatial rings, Xiaochen no longer lingered here and headed for the exit of the forest. As the cultivators of the 2 clans watched Xiaochen's departing figure, they stared at him. However, none of them had any intention of following him. After the matter was over, Xiaochen left, hiding his scholarly achievements. He carried his pride and went on his way alone. 3 days later, the news of a white-robed bladesman killing Situlei and Lu Chen, the 2 tyrants of Azure Peak City, spread like wildfire to every corner of the city. These 2 clans dominated Azure Peak City for a long time. Situlei and Lu Chen were peak experts who had already shaken the entire city decades ago. In this small green summit city, The two of them were godlike existences. When people suddenly heard that these two people died at the hands of a young white-robed bladesman, no one believed it. They thought it was just a joke. However, as the cultivators of the two clans spread more news, whether intentionally or unintentionally, it was verified. Everyone in the city was shocked. Several old people sighed. The new generation replaced the old. To think that Situlei and Lu Chen died just like that, making someone else famous for nothing. As for Xiao Chen's identity, all sorts of rumors spread. Some of them were so exaggerated that people found it funny. The largest restaurant of Azure Peak City was bustling with people. Business was booming. There was not a single empty table in sight. Do you know that the identity of the white-robed bladesman has already been revealed? It is the famous Bai Wuxia's challenge. What's going on? Could this white-robed bladesman be the person that Bai Wuxia officially acknowledged? That should be the case. The cultivators of the two clans have already compared the portraits. They look at least 70% similar. Furthermore, they are both bladesmen and wear white robes. How could there be such a coincidence? If it is this person, then Situlei and Lu Chen's deaths are not unjust. After all, even one of the 7 giants, Bai Wuxia, officially acknowledged this person. The most discussed topic in the hall was none other than the white-robed bladesman. The place was extraordinarily bustling. Xiao Chun, who was wearing a black cloak, sat at a table by the window on the second floor. He appeared very calm about all this, not showing any complacency. He had only killed 2 half-sages who were as strong as Gu Mu. Any one of the 7 giants would have been able to do so. Furthermore, they would have done so much more easily than Xiao Chun. After putting down his wine cup, Xiao Chun focused all his attention on a round purple crystal coin. The purple crystal coin felt very textured in his hand. There were 3 mountains hidden in the clouds on the back, and a figure of a person on the front. In total, Xiao Chun had obtained 10 million superior-grade spirit stones from Situlei's and Lu Chen's spatial rings. This was much lower than Xiao Chun had expected. The two of them had their own clans and were not loose cultivators. Despite being half-sages, they only had slightly more than 5 million superior-grade spirit stones. This was completely incomprehensible. Aside from spirit stones, Xiao Chen's greatest harvest was the purple crystal coin before him. There were about 100,000 of them. The purple crystal coin should have been made from some mysterious ore. It was very valuable. As for what exactly it was, even after studying it for a few days, Xiao Chen could not figure it out. In the noisy restaurant, Xiao Chen held the purple crystal coin and finally asked Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, "What is this crystal coin?" "Ao Jiao, do you know?" Ao Jiao was currently taking care of the most valuable lunar cassia tree in the immortal spirit ring. Under her care, the white lunar cassia tree had already doubled in height from its initial 10-meter-tall sapling. The tree trunk had also become thicker. Xiao Chen had to wrap his hands around it before he could barely wrap his arms around it. The branches and leaves were lush, glistening with spiritual light. It looked very beautiful. Ao Jiao stopped what she was doing and narrowed her eyes. Then she smiled craftily and said, "Naturally, I know. However, you have to throw in some more spirit stones." Right now, the spirit trees in the herb garden are growing too slowly with just the rank 1 spirit vein's origin. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly, feeling a headache coming on. Honestly speaking, he had not paid much attention to the spirit trees in the immortal spirit ring. In reality, an ordinary tree would take 10 or 20 years to grow. What more a spirit tree? It would take hundreds or even thousands of years to grow. However, Ao Jiao worked tirelessly. She kept saying that it would be very useful to Xiao Chen in the future. The earlier he managed the immortal spirit ring, the better his advantage would be when he met Emperor Wu, who was of the same generation. Xiao Chen spent most of his superior-grade spirit stones on it. This time he had just obtained 10 million superior-grade spirit stones. However, Ao Jiao immediately asked for 3 million. This made Xiao Chen's heart ache. After that, no matter how much she asked, Xiao Chen ignored her. Now that he heard Ao Jiao mention this matter again, Xiao Chen felt helpless. He could only agree to throw in another 2 million superior-grade spirit stones. Only then did Ao Jiao smile in satisfaction. She said, "This is an astral coin. It is widely circulated among the high-ranked cultivators of the 5 major races of the Kunlun realm's 5 domains. Normally, Emperor Wu would use astral coins to exchange for treasures. Xiaochen held the purple crystal coin and asked doubtfully, "Astral coin? Doesn't that overlap with spirit stones?" Ao Jiao smiled and said, "How can it overlap? Even in the human race's Tianwu domain, it would not overlap. I already said that this is the currency used among high-rank cultivators. Martial sages and the various peak auctions all use astral coins as their currency. The most important thing is that spirit stones are most useful to human cultivators. They are not very useful to the other races. For example, the deity race mainly cultivates mental energy. The cultivation resource they require is demonic soul stones. The fiend race cultivates fiendish energy. The efficiency of converting spirit stones into fiendish energy is far inferior to that of blood soul stones. Only astral coins are made from the astral crystal mines of the Milky Way. They are essential for forging spirit weapons and secret treasures. They are a scarce resource among the various races. It is most suitable to use them as the currency used to communicate with the 5 major domains." After this explanation, Xiaochen finally understood the value of astral coins. Due to the different body structures of the major races, the astral coins were extremely rare. Although they all cultivated the martial Dao, the cultivation resources they required were different. Spirit stones, which could be used widely in the Tianwu domain, would be hard to find in the fiend domain or the deity race. At this moment, they urgently needed a common resource that could be traded between the various races. Hunluo province was at the border of the Tianwu domain, bordering the fiend domain. Bushan Palace's control over it was very weak. The number of fiend race and human cultivators in the province was roughly equal. Chapter 743. Finding astral coins on Situlei and Luqian was easy to explain. The 2 clan heads definitely had dealings with fiend race cultivators. Xiaochen wondered how much 100,000 astral coins were worth. Xiaochen thought for a while before asking, "How many spirit stones can one astral coin be exchanged for?" Ao Jiao thought for a while before replying, 2,000 years ago, during the Thunder King's time, one astral coin was worth 1,000 superior grade spirit stones. However, it was not fixed. For example, if you used astral coins to exchange for spirit stones in the human race, it would definitely not be as much as in the fiend domain. There should not be too many changes now. It should be around 1,000 superior grade spirit stones to 2,000. When Xiaochen heard this, his heart could not help thumping heavily. Based on this exchange rate, 100,000 astral coins could be exchanged for at least 100 million superior grade spirit stones. How could the 2 clans accumulate only 10 million superior grade spirit stones after hundreds of years? This was impossible. Now that the 2 clans were fully stocked up, Xiaochen was in a good mood. He revealed a smile and tossed an astral coin on the table. Then he said loudly, "Waiter, the bill." However, Ao Jiao laughed to herself. While 100,000 astral coins might seem like a lot, it would be nearly used up to purchase 1 or 2 high-ranked superior grade secret treasures. The consumption of resources between high-ranked cultivators was far beyond what Xiaochen could imagine. When the waiter heard that the bill was being paid, he rushed over quickly. However, when he looked around, he discovered that the people on the table were long gone. Just as the waiter was about to curse out loud, he suddenly noticed the purple astral coin on the table. His eyes immediately lit up. He held it in his hand and examined it carefully before laughing joyfully. Astral coin. It really is an astral coin. I have not seen such a forthright cultivator in a long time. Hunluo province bordered the fiend domain. Astral coins were not rare in Hunluo province. Hence, the waiter recognized this astral coin with one glance. Knowing the value of astral coins, the waiter nearly jumped up in joy. Outside the city gates, Xiaochen removed his black cloak and took one last look at Azure Peak City before continuing on his way. After spending more than a month in the Savage Beast Forest, he had completely recovered in the past 3 days. Xiaochen's destination did not change. It was still the Devil region, the forbidden land where the Thunder King had comprehended his will. At this moment, Everyone in the Lu residence in Green Summit City was listless. Lu Chen was dead, and the clan had lost a half-sage. Everyone could predict what would happen to the Lu clan in Green Peak City in the future. It would be difficult for them to continue their glory. If it weren't for his prestige, his enemies would have come to kill him long ago, but his peaceful days wouldn't last long. Unless Lu Enz, the successor to the family head, was willing to cut off more than half of the family business. Young Master Lu, what do you think? As long as you say that you will leave the Eternal Heavenly Sword School, our magnificent Fiend Hall will immediately help you deal with that brat. In the brightly lit main hall of the Lu family, a burly man in a yellow robe with a rough appearance and an ominous glint in his eyes said to the indecisive Lu Enz. Although Green Peak City was a small city, its proximity to the savage beast forest was excellent. It had always been one of the strongholds that the major factions of Hunluo province fought over. On the surface, it was in the hands of the Situ clan and the Lu clan. However, everyone in the know knew that the two clans were backed by the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. The Eternal Heavenly Sword School was the reason for the conflict between the two clans. They did not want one of the clans to grow too strong. In reality, if one thought about it carefully, one could understand. Given Situ Lei and Lu Chen's half-sage cultivation, without a strong backer, any martial sage would be able to subdue this place. However, such a situation did not happen. Clearly, everyone knew that touching these two clans was equivalent to offending the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. Things would not end well for them. The yellow-robed man appeared very confident. He smiled and said, I believe you have already reported the situation here to the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. However, they will not offend the Haotian sect for the sake of two small clans. They are even more afraid of the human race's Bushin Palace taking revenge on them if they kill this genius. However, we fiend race cultivators do not have so many scruples. If we kill him, so be it. As long as we do not break the tacit understanding between us, it will be fine. Lu En's expression slowly relaxed. He had indeed reported the situation to the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. The other party's reaction was exactly as the yellow-robed man said. They only placated Lu En's and said that they would send experts to take over the Lu clan temporarily. Then, they would take Lu En's in as a true inheritor. After Lu En's finished his studies, he would take revenge for his father's death. They had not mentioned taking the initiative to attack that brat. However, Lu En still hesitated. After all, as a human, he could not accept the fact that he was a fiend race faction. However, when Lu En's recalled the scene of his father, Lu Chen, being smashed into a meat patty by Xiao Qin, boundless hatred surged in his heart. He clenched his teeth and made a decision. Very well, I promise you. As long as your magnificent Fiend Hall can kill that brat, I will help you gain complete control of Green Peak City. The yellow-robed man stood up and laughed loudly. He said, How delightful. In less than a month, that brat's head will appear before you. Hunluo province was located at the border of the Fiend domain and the Tianwu domain. The humans and the Fiend races had already infiltrated each other, forming a special, chaotic land. Be it the Tianwu domain's Bushin Palace or the Fiend domain's Heavenly Fiend Palace, they could not manage this place well. As time passed, they abandoned this place. This made it a completely lawless zone, and the chaos intensified even more. There were 6 major factions in Hunluo province. The human race's Eternal Heavenly Sword School, Bone Tomb Sect, and Blood Shadow Sect, and the Fiend race's Magnificent Fiend Hall, Heavenly Tiger Sect, and Soaring Serpent Mansion. These 6 major factions were all rank 8 sects with strong peak martial sages holding down the fort. In terms of accumulations, they were much weaker than the 9 ranks of the great families. However, among the rank 8 sects, any one of these 6 major factions would rank at the peak in any domain of the Kunlun realm. This was just one province, and there were 6 peak rank 8 sections. The chaos and conflict there was easy to imagine. Furthermore, the Bushin Palace and the Heavenly Fiend Palace made this place seem weak. Several loose cultivators who committed great crimes in the Tianwu domain and the Fiend domain did not want to flee to the distant Primal Chaos domain. If they didn't want to run to the remote Primal Chaos domain, they would hide here to avoid being hunted down. Here, be it the famous bandits of the Tianwu domain's evil cultivator ranking, or the great evil fiends of the fiend domain, they could be found everywhere. On a mountain peak outside Azure Peak City, strong winds blew away white clouds, causing them to drift about. That yellow-robed man from the magnificent fiend hall stood at the summit, looking calmly into the distance. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A nimble figure leaped up from the foot of the mountain like a monkey, continuously climbing up. With a single kick, he would leap 500 meters. This person's kick was clearly very strong. However, when he landed, he was as light as a feather. None of the rocks on the mountain peak tumbled down. This person climbed the 5,000-meter-tall slope in a few breaths of time, before landing on a huge rock at the summit. This person also wore yellow robes. However, his clothes were messy, and he did not care about his appearance. His long hair was a mess, as if he had not combed it for a long time. With one glance, the word sloppy would immediately appear in one's mind. Only his eyes were spirited, bright, and clear. These eyes were like luminous pearls that had suddenly popped out of a pile of trash. They were very dazzling, making everyone forget about the pile of trash, and only remember this pair of luminous pearl-like eyes. The sloppy youth half-squatted on the huge rock, not bothering with his image at all. He stuck his finger into his ear and said breathlessly, "First uncle, why are you looking for me so urgently? I did not come to Hunluo province to sightsee." The yellow-robed man turned around and said with a smile, "Feng, I called you over this time to help our magnificent fiend hall with something. As you know, Azure Peak City is the city closest to the Tianwu domain in Hunluo province. The magnificent fiend hall has long been interested in this city." The sloppy youth with the single word Feng removed his finger from his ear and casually flicked it a few times. He said lazily, "What does it have to do with me? You joined the magnificent fiend hall, and no longer have anything to do with our giant ape race." The yellow-robed man felt somewhat frustrated in his heart. He said, "Little brat, you have already grown up, and your wings have hardened. Now that you have the title of Little Heavenly Monkey, have you forgotten how I raised you?" Feng's lips twitched as he stood up from the huge rock. He said helplessly, "Very well, tell me what you have to say. If it does not interfere with my matters, I can do it in passing." The yellow-robed man smiled and said, "Help me kill someone. Of course, if everything goes smoothly, you might not need to do anything." Feng's bright eyes stared at the yellow-robed man and said, "Kill someone? Given your cultivation as an inferior grade martial sage, you still need me to help you kill someone?" The yellow-robed man said softly, "Sometimes, there are some tacit understandings that cannot be broken. With my status, if I were to kill a junior genius, Bushin Palace will definitely find trouble with me. The Fiend Domain's Skyfiend Palace will also find trouble with me." The situation was easy to understand. The major races were hostile to each other due to the competition for resources and other issues, but they also had their own tacit understanding. If your family sends out their older generation experts to kill the younger generation geniuses on my side, and my side does the same, then the two families can forget about developing. Sooner or later, there would be a shortage of successors, and their legacies would be severed. They would all perish. The matters of the younger generation should be left to the younger generation. If there were no great benefits, no one would break this unspoken tacit understanding. I have already contacted Wu Yuankai, one of the 10 great evildoers of the Hunluo province. This kind of loose cultivator does not fear anything. If he fails, you will have to take action." The yellow-robed man said indifferently. Feng shrugged his shoulders and said, "Up to you. However, I am curious, who exactly are you going to kill? Even after inviting the 10 evils, you are still worried. Could it be the 7 giants of the Tianwu domain? Don't worry. They are not at that level yet. Just wait for my news. If I do not come looking for you in 10 days, the mission will end." The yellow-robed man leaped off the peak and vanished from Feng's sight. Feng, the genius cultivator of the giant ape race, who was known as the Little Heavenly Monkey in the Fiend domain, had messy hair and loose robes. He smiled and said, "How disappointing. If it were not the 7 giants, this mission would be very boring." At this moment, Xiaochen did not know that someone had killed Situlei and Lu Chen for him, creating a huge disaster for himself. He was currently rushing to his next destination, the Hunluo province's provincial capital. After that, he would make a trip to the Eternal Heavenly Sword School's headquarters to see if the Eternal Heavenly Sword School had any connection to the Thunder King. Along the way, Xiaochen gained a better understanding of the Hunluo province. This Hunluo province actually had 6 rank 8 sections. This surpassed Xiaochen's expectations. Chapter 744. Rank 8 sects were considered strong factions in the Tianwu domain. They were all in the same province. Who knew how intense the competition would be? The founder of this Eternal Heavenly Sword School is really shameless. Unexpectedly, he said that he created the Thunder Light Fleeing Shadow Sword. I really want to know who this Eternal Heavenly Sword Sage is. Ao Jiao said angrily from the Immortal Spirit Ring. Along the way, Xiaochen met several Eternal Heavenly Sword School disciples. When they spoke, they all respected this founder of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. They said that the Eternal Heavenly Sword School was an absolute genius. Not only did he establish the Eternal Heavenly Sword School from scratch, but he also created several exquisite sword techniques. In the end, when Ao Jiao heard this, she flew into a rage. The sword techniques that the other party mentioned, including the Thunder Light Fleeing Shadow Sword, were all comprehended by the Thunder King himself when he was young. Along the way, Xiaochen had heard Ao Jiao's complaints several times. He smiled faintly and said, "Don't say any more. That Eternal Heavenly Sword Sage is probably dead already. There is no point in you cursing at him." Ao Jiao said calmly, "That person was already a martial sage 2,000 years ago. If he broke through to Emperor Wu, even if he was a minor Heavenly Emperor Wu, he would have no problem living for another 2,000 years. Xiaochen shook his head and said, "That is impossible. If he became Emperor Wu, he would shake up the entire place. No other faction would be able to set foot in Hunluo province. The most important thing is that the Eternal Heavenly Sword School disciples did not say that he became a martial emperor. If he really became a martial emperor, he would flaunt it. What you say makes sense. However, I feel that this is too much of a coincidence. 2,000 years ago, right after the Thunder King fell, this Eternal Heavenly Sword School was established. If he did not want to become a martial emperor, why would he establish a sect for no reason? Establishing a sect is for the sake of obtaining resources to become a martial emperor." Ao Jiao's expression turned grave. Her suspicions of this Eternal Heavenly Sword School increased. Xiaochen noticed the main point in Ao Jiao's words. He asked, "What does establishing a sect have to do with breaking through to Emperor Wu?" Ao Jiao explained, "Some people with insufficient talent and luck will establish a sect and gather vast resources to forcefully break through to martial emperor. However, this kind of martial emperor's cultivation will forever be stuck at the minor celestial realm, unable to advance any further. Furthermore, the risks are equally high, and the resources required are astronomical. For some people, the gains do not make up for the losses." He glanced at Hunluo City, which was already in sight. Then he stopped and said, "Actually, by now you should tell me how the Thunder Emperor fell back then." Inside the Immortal Spirit Ring, Ao Jiao remained silent for a long time. It was like she was unwilling to recall that period of the past. After a long time she slowly said, "There are indeed some things that I have to tell you." Xiaochen had always been suspicious about the Thunder King's death. As the youngest sovereign martial emperor since the Qing Emperor, Sang Mu had swept through the Kunlun realm unhindered. Practically no one in the same generation could match him. On the path of cultivation, those who could become Emperor Wu were usually people with great luck. Barring any accidents, they would not fall for no reason. This was even more so for someone like the Thunder Emperor. Since he could be conferred king, he would definitely not die by accident. Back then, in the Blue Dragon Palace, when the mysterious item spirit mentioned the Thunder King, it was full of praise. The first thing it asked Xiaochen was if the Thunder King was the strongest sovereign martial emperor. After learning of the Thunder King's death, the stunned expression on the Thunder King's face did not seem to be feigned. Ao Jiao revealed a somewhat sorrowful expression. She said softly, "Back then, when Sang Mu advanced to sovereign martial emperor, he could not wait to challenge the Thunder King. one of the strongest sovereign martial emperors in the Tianwu domain. The Thunder King was a title. He was the founder of the Thunder and Lightning Palace, a sovereign martial emperor of the same generation as the Qing Emperor. He was also one of the oldest Emperor Wu of the Kunlun realm. Many people said that the Thunder King was the strongest of the human race. Even the Holy Lord of the Three Holy Masters was not as strong as him. Of course, rumors were just rumors. No one could take them seriously. Furthermore, the Thunder King had already lived for more than 10,000 years, and had not shown himself for a very long time. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. Sangmu was known as the Thunder King. Now that he advanced to Sovereign Martial Emperor, he naturally wanted the Thunder King's title. However, the title was not bestowed by oneself. One had to have the corresponding strength for the title to be acknowledged by the world. Hence, there would definitely be a battle between Sangmu and the Thunder King, one of the strongest Emperor Wu of the human race. Having just been conferred king, Sangmu challenged a sovereign of the same generation as the Qing Emperor. Such boldness was something to look forward to. Xiaochen asked somewhat anxiously, "Did he win or lose?" Ao Jiao revealed a pained expression. She muttered, "He lost." The Thunder King's Sangmu sword was broken by that old fellow, the Thunder King. Xiaochen said somewhat dispiritedly, "In that case, the Thunder King was killed by the Thunder King." Ao Jiao shook her head and said, "No, that old fellow, the Thunder King, only broke the Sangmu sword and severely injured the Thunder King. However, he did not kill him. He even said that this was an unfair victory, and invited the Thunder King to fight him again in 100 years. Xiaochen asked doubtfully, "In that case, who killed him?" "I am not very clear on the specifics either. The instant the Sangmu sword broke, I fell into a deep sleep, in danger of dying at any moment. At some point in time, crystalline tears appeared in the corners of Ao Jiao's eyes. She said, "When I woke up, not only did the Thunder King not recover from his injuries, they even worsened, becoming fatal. At that time, I was so frightened that I started crying. He told me not to cry. When I asked him who did this to him, he did not say anything. He only said that he was betrayed by a vile person, and that he had let me down. After that, he went to the Phoenix's Passion Palace, hoping to ask for a divine moonlight stone to protect me. However, he got into an argument with their young palace master. In his rage, the Thunder King dragged his dying body and killed their young palace master. He forcefully snatched away the divine moonlight stone. The Holy Lord of the Phoenix's Passion Palace planted a vermilion bird holy fire imprint on him, causing him to self-destruct. After Xiaochen heard Ao Jiao's story, he finally understood the whole story. On the surface, the Thunder King appeared to have been killed by the Holy Lord of the Phoenix's Passion Palace. However, in reality, he was already dead. If he were at his peak, the Phoenix's Passion Palace's palace master might not have been able to kill the Thunder King. The crux of this should be the period after the Thunder King's defeat, when Ao Jiao was asleep. How exactly did the Thunder King's injuries become fatal? Clearly, the Thunder King did not want to tell Ao Jiao about this, so Xiaochen had no way of knowing. Xiaochen thought about the Thunder King's life. He came from a humble background and became famous at a young age. Along the way, the deeds he left behind in the Sky Dome realm became a legend. After he arrived in the Kunlun realm, he was like a fish in water. He was like a bound Kuan Pung finally unfurling its wings, larger than the sky. He distinguished himself from the many lower realm geniuses, and defeated the disciples of the various noble clans of the Tianwu domain. After he advanced to Martial Emperor, he rose up completely. From then on, he rampaged through the Kunlun realm, inspiring fear in Emperor Wu of the various races. Such a fall was truly regrettable. If the Thunder King had not died, he would definitely be the strongest sovereign martial emperor in the Tianwu domain 2,000 years later. Looking at Hunluo City in the distance, Xiaochen did not know what to say. Unexpectedly, the Thunder King's death was so strange. Who exactly was the villain that the Thunder King spoke of? Who caused his injuries to become fatal? Xiaochen did not know where to start investigating. Even if he knew, he would not be able to do anything about it. Given Xiaochen's current strength, even 1,000 of him would not be a match for the person who could injure the Thunder King. No wonder Ao Jiao had not been willing to tell Xiaochen. Before he was strong enough, even if he knew some things, he could only treat them as stories. It did not matter whether he told her or not. Sorry, I made you recall some sad memories, Xiaochen said with some guilt when he saw the tears in Ao Jiao's eyes. Ao Jiao gently wiped away the tears in her eyes and forced a smile. It's fine. Some things have been bottled up in my heart for too long. Since I can say them, it means that I can walk out of them. Xiaochen looked ahead with a resolute gaze. He said seriously, don't worry. I will definitely help you investigate the cause of the Thunder King's death. Who is the one behind this? The truth will come to light one day. Ao Jiao smiled and said, don't seek trouble for yourself. The Thunder King did not tell me back then. It must have been because his opponent was too strong, and he did not want anyone to take revenge for him. Let's go. After we go to the Eternal Heavenly Sword School, we will immediately head for the Fiend Domain. You have your own path to walk as well. Xiaochen did not say anything more. He only remembered this promise in his heart. In the future, when he climbed to the peak, he would personally kill the Thunder King's enemies. The strongest human martial emperor in the Tianwu domain, the Thunder King. Sooner or later, Xiaochen would pay a visit and defeat the other party, fulfilling the Thunder King's final wish. Before the sky turned dark, Xiaochen arrived at the city gates of Hunluo City. Hunluo City was no less majestic than Haotian City. In fact, it was even more majestic. This startled Xiaochen. It was hard to imagine that this was the provincial capital of a border province. It was even more majestic than the provincial capitals of several major provinces in the Tianwu domain. After entering the city, Xiaochen saw a different scene. Unexpectedly, the entire street was filled with cultivators. Furthermore, they all revealed killing chi, their gazes ferocious. If there was any conflict or argument, they would immediately start fighting. The scene was intense, but no one stopped them. The people here also seemed to be used to it. They watched with great interest and made comments from time to time. They seemed rather excited. Along the way, Xiaochen saw several duels. Those who lost did not have a good ending. They all died on the street, their treasures snatched away. There were even some people who kept an eye on the cultivators entering the city. When they discovered any unfamiliar cultivator who was not strong or was alone, they immediately swarmed over. The entire city was so chaotic that there was no order to it. Everyone spoke with their fists. The law of the jungle was clear for all to see. Xiaochen did not want to cause any trouble, so he released his dense killing chi. Only then did he manage to intimidate the crowd, deterring them from acting rashly. After all, such a dense killing chi was not something an ordinary person could accumulate. With one look, it was clear that this person was someone who frequently walked the line between life and death. After finding a random inn, Xiaochen ordered a table full of food and wine. Then he called the waiter in and tossed out 5 astral coins. He said, I have some questions for you. Answer them honestly. The waiter received the 5 astral coins and said with a smile, Young hero, if you have anything to say, feel free to tell me. Xiaochen nodded and said, Tell me about Hunluo City's situation. Also, tell me how much you know about the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. When the waiter heard that, he immediately started talking. His words were very nimble. Although he had a lot of vocabulary, he was not long-winded at all. Soon, Xiaochen gained a rough understanding of Hunluo City. Clearly, this was not the waiter's first time speaking like this. However, when he spoke about the Eternal Heavenly Sword School, he was not as nimble. Chapter 745. Xiaochen already had a rough idea of what the waiter said, so he could not help but feel disappointed. The waiter could tell that Xiaochen wanted him to leave, so he said, Young hero, there is a piece of news that you will definitely be interested in. Xiaochen raised his head and asked, What is it? Hehe. About this. The waiter hesitated. Xiaochen understood what he meant, and gave him another 5 astral coins. The waiter said happily, Young hero is indeed a straightforward person. In that case, I'll be direct. The Eternal Heavenly Sword School is preparing to auction off a broken sword. It is a fragment of a subdivine weapon. When Xiaochen heard that, he raised his eyebrows slightly. He said, Subdivine weapons are worth cities. Even Emperor Wu would be interested. A fragment of a subdivine weapon would be worth a lot as well. It would attract some martial sages. However, this is not really big news. The waiter smiled mysteriously and said, "What if it is the sword that the Thunder King used back then?" Right after the waiter spoke, Xiao Chen and Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, were stunned at the same time, clearly shocked. Xiao Chen remembered that when he obtained the Thunderwood sword back then, he only had half of it. The other half was nowhere to be found. Why is the other half of the sword in their hands? Ao Jiao exclaimed excitedly from the immortal spirit ring. Xiao Chen, ask around and see if it is true. Seeing that Xiao Chen did not believe him, the waiter quickly said, "This insignificant one does not dare to lie. In the past few years, the Eternal Heavenly Sword School has occasionally auctioned off some treasures with sky-high prices. They are all worth cities. Other sects would definitely hide them, but the Eternal Heavenly Sword School sold them." Xiao Chen raised his wine cup and took a sip. He revealed a pondering expression. According to what the waiter said, the Eternal Heavenly Sword School's actions were very strange. What is the name of the auction house? When is it being held? Xiao Chen did not know about this. Since he did, he would definitely go and see if there was a chance to obtain the other half of the sword. However, the chances were slim. After all, it was just a fragment of a subdivine weapon. That half was already worth cities. The materials needed to forge a subdivine weapon were all rare resources. Many of them were treasures that could only be found by luck. Once one missed it, one would have to wait for hundreds of years. After the subdivine weapon was forged, it would interest several martial sages. This was especially so for the sects preparing to forge a subdivine weapon. They would spend a lot to buy it. Once the subdivine weapon was successfully forged, the owner's strength would immediately increase by 50%. It would not seem exaggerated at all. Furthermore, this divine weapon was once the sword of the Thunder Emperor, which added to its legend. Given Xiao Chen's wealth, competing with these people was not realistic. It was not to compete with the Chen about it. The about it, not it said, Chen with the Chen, with would not have it. On the 30th of the month, that would be the day after tomorrow. It wouldn't take long. Xiao Chen waved his hand and dismissed the waiter. Then he said to Ao Jiao in his heart, "What do you think? Why is the remaining half of the sword in the hands of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School?" Waving his hand, Xiao Chen dismissed the waiter. Then he said to Ao Jiao in his heart, "What do you think? How did the other half of the sword end up in the hands of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School?" "You mean to say that the Eternal Heavenly Sword Sage betrayed the Thunder King back then?" Xiao Chen asked probingly as he put down his wine cup. Ao Jiao shook her head slightly and said, "Not necessarily. Given the Eternal Heavenly Sword Sage's strength back then, even if the Thunder King was severely injured, he could have easily killed him." Xiao Chen said somewhat helplessly, "What should I do with the other half of the sword? With my current wealth, it would be very difficult to obtain it." His competitors would definitely be martial sages. Compared to martial sages, Xiao Chen's 100,000 astral coins paled in comparison. He had no chance of winning. Ao Jiao did not seem to care about this. She sighed softly and said, "We'll leave it to fate. We just need to pay attention to who obtains it in the end. Perhaps there will be a chance to get it back in the future. When the Lunar Shadow Saber advances to a subdivine weapon, it will save us a lot of trouble." After eating and drinking, Xiao Chen rented an independent courtyard at the back of the inn for peace and quiet. When the sky turned dark, a cultivator from the magnificent Fiend Hall arrived in the most chaotic area of Hunluo City, the Western District. This cultivator walked over in fear and trepidation. After looking around, he found his destination and carefully arrived at a courtyard. The Western District was filled with ferocious loose cultivators. If not for the magnificent Fiend Hall's identity token, he would not have been able to enter this district as a medial-grade martial monarch. When this cultivator saw the doors before him, horror flashed in his eyes. Wu Yuankai, one of Hunluo City's 10 evildoers, lived in this courtyard. The 10 evildoers were all great bandits of the Tianwu domain and the Fiend domain. Even the weakest of them was a half-sage. The top 3 evildoers were even martial sages. The 6 great sects of Hunluo City would not casually offend these 3. This cultivator calmed himself and carefully knocked on the door knocker a few times. Then he said loudly, "Senior Wu, I am a disciple of the magnificent Fiend Hall. The news you are waiting for has arrived." Wu Yuankai's voice reverberated in the dark night for a long time. However, there was no reply from the courtyard. This scared the magnificent Fiend Hall cultivator waiting outside. "Come in." After a long time, a hoarse voice came from inside. The magnificent Fiend Hall cultivator quickly pushed the door open and entered the courtyard. Wu Yuankai, who was dressed in sackcloth robes, looked indifferently at the newcomer and said, "The magnificent Fiend Hall is only SO. It took you 7 days to find a person." The newcomer smiled and said, "Hunluo province is so big. Finding a person is like finding a needle in a haystack. It is not an easy task. Take a look. This is the down payment, 50,000 astral coins. After the matter is over, I will give you the other half." Wu Yuankai received a space ring from the person. After checking it, a look of greed flashed across his eyes. He grinned and said, "Give me that person's address. Wait for my good news in 3 days." "Thank you, senior. I will take my leave first." That person handed over Xiao Chen's address and left in a hurry, not willing to stay for another second. Wu Yuankai took a look at the address and said softly, "Since I took someone's money, I have to help them deal with their problems. Junior, don't blame me for being ruthless." The auction would begin on the 30th of the month. Hunluo City was in chaos for 3 days. Xiao Chen was not in the mood to go out and take a stroll, so he focused all his energy on cultivating. Ghostly Image Chop. Blue Dragon Goes to Sea. Soaring Dragon. In the small courtyard, Xiao Chen used less than 1% of his quintessence to execute the 3 heaven-ranked martial techniques that he knew. Of the 3 heaven-ranked martial techniques, Soaring Dragon was definitely the strongest. This was because it contained the might of a true dragon soaring. It was the strongest of the 3. Furthermore, it was a move that Xiao Chen could perfectly grasp. With this move, no superior-grade martial monarch would be a match for him. Even a half-sage would not dare to clash head-on. Of course, the other 2 moves were not just for show. Ghostly Image Chop was a combination of moves. Once Xiao Chen found his opponent's weak point, he would have a 50% chance of killing his opponent in 1 move. Even against a half-sage, Xiao Chen had a 50% chance of killing his opponent in 1 move. As for Blue Dragon Goes to Sea, it was a heaven-ranked martial technique that could be used multiple times. It was not like Soaring Dragon and Ghostly Image Chop, which exhausted a large amount of quintessence and mental energy. Under normal circumstances, Xiao Chen would use it the most. The other 2 could be used as killing moves. Aside from this, Xiao Chen also had the Dragon Tone art. When he caught his opponent off guard, he could obtain an unexpected result. Furthermore, it was very effective against spirit beasts. As for using the Dragon Tone art to deal with the deity race experts, Xiao Chen did not dare to be too presumptuous. After all, he had not seen the deity race's mental energy martial techniques before. Naturally, the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram was the best trump card for Xiao Chen. This Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram could easily block the full-powered strikes of 2 half-sages. Its potential was limitless. During these 3 days, Xiao Chen made a simple assessment of his strength. This could be considered a summary of his overall strength after his fight with Lu Chen and Situ Lei. On the surface, my weakness appears to be my insufficient cultivation. However, it is actually my will. Xiao Chen withdrew his saber and calmly analyzed the situation. Actually, the cultivation of the 7 giants was about the same. However, Bai Wuxia and the others were several times weaker than in Juanxi. There were many reasons for this. However, the most important one was that in Juanxi's will far surpass theirs. Although their cultivations were the same, their strength was on a completely different level. In fact, several inferior-grade martial sages were no longer a match for in Juanxi. The most crucial thing is to comprehend a will. After this trip, I have to rush to the place that Ao Jiao mentioned. Who is it? Hiding there, acting sneakily. Suddenly, Xiao Chen's expression changed. He turned around and retreated 100 meters. Then he placed his right hand on his saber hilt and stared coldly at Wu Yuankai, who was standing on the wall. Wu Yuankai looked at Xiao Chun and silently landed on the ground. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Your vigilance is pretty good. Unfortunately, you are going to be a dead man soon." Wu Yuankai did not look particularly old. He looked like a middle-aged man. However, the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes and the vicissitudes of life in his eyes gave off a feeling of lethargy. Wu Yuankai's large black robes wrapped around his body tightly. He wore a pair of dark gold gloves on his hands. Wu Yuankai. Wu Yuankai. Wu Yuankai. There was clearly nothing around Wu Yuankai's body, but occasionally, miserable cries could be heard. In the quiet night, the miserable cries tugged at the taut strings in the minds of cultivators. When this person landed, Xiao Chun took advantage of the opportunity to retreat another 200 meters. He looked at the other party with a grave expression, not daring to be careless. Xiao Chun's mental energy was vast and boundless, and his spiritual sense was very sharp. Normally, he would be able to discover a hostile cultivator within a kilometer of him. However, Wu Yuankai only got within 100 meters of Xiao Chun before he was discovered. If Xiao Chun had been any later, he might have been killed in a sneak attack. Occasionally, the disturbing cries resounded. Although Xiao Chun was not greatly affected, he kept feeling that something was wrong. Xiao Chun tried to focus his spiritual sense in his eyes. When he squinted, he discovered 10 odd scarlet ribbons of light that were hard to see with the naked eye surrounding Wu Yuankai. The ribbons of light were as fine as needles and thread. As they circled Wu Yuankai, they undulated like waves. As the scarlet ribbons of light moved, the spiritual energy of the world scattered and gathered like rain. As the scarlet ribbons of light moved, the spiritual energy of the world scattered and gathered like rain. Chapter 746. However, regular cultivators could not see it with their naked eyes. They could only vaguely feel the other party's flourishing aura like a mountain pressing down. This was the commonly known sage might. When cultivators advanced to martial sage, they could comprehend the power of the world and form strong heavenly sage laws. According to legend, Emperor Wu could even become one with the world, forming his own heavenly laws. With a wave of his hand, the sky would crumble, the earth would crack, mountains and rivers would shatter. Those thin red ribbons of light should be the laws of the world of this person, the half-step sage realm. This person was definitely not simple to condense 10 odd heavenly sage laws. Back when Xiao Chun fought by Wuxia, it looked like they were evenly matched within 100 moves. However, after another 500 moves, Xiao Chun's quintessence and vital qi would run dry. Furthermore, Bai Wuxia had heavenly sage laws. The speed at which he absorbed spiritual energy and the amount of quintessence he could store were not something Xiao Chun could compare to. Xiao Chun, this person is not simple. The red ribbons of light you see are not his true heavenly sage laws. They are just the projection of the heavenly sage laws in his dantian. Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, said with some worry, he should have cultivated some kind of evil cultivation technique, infusing his baleful aura into his laws. Otherwise, the originally vast and mighty laws of the world would not be scarlet and filled with evil qi. If there is an opportunity, it is best to leave. Back when you fought with Bai Wuxia, no matter what, he had to worry about Shui Lingling. This person is a loose cultivator. He is probably lawless and does not care about anything. Even without Ao Jiao's reminder, Xiao Chun was already very focused. The person before him was probably the strongest opponent he had faced since coming to the Kunlun realm. Thunderclouds filled the sky above, and muffled thunder slowly roared. Occasionally, purple lightning tore through the sky. Xiao Chun had already unleashed his immortal state of thunder. Xiao Chun placed his right hand on his saber hilt, and silently executed Qing Emperor drawing the saber. A red light flickered in Xiao Chun's eyes. That was the peak state of massacre that he had not used for a long time. At this moment he did not hold it back. The wind formed by the massacre intent slowly blew in the courtyard with a heavy and desolate feeling. Soon a strong wind blew. This wind contained the boundless killing intent in Xiao Chun's eyes. As the strong wind blew, The green grass in the courtyard lost all signs of life and withered on the spot due to the strong wind of massacre. The wind howled and the cranes howled, accompanied by lightning and thunder in the night sky. Amidst the shocking momentum, Xiao Chen's white robes fluttered, and his black hair fluttered. Holding his saber hilt, Xiao Chen withdrew his aura, hiding himself in the world. In the vast and unbridled aura, he seemed infinitely small. The distance between him and Wu Yuankai seemed to have increased by thousands of kilometers. However, with just one movement, this tiny figure hidden in the world would cross 5,000 kilometers and arrive with a torrential aura. Wu Yuankai's pupils constricted as he exclaimed softly. A strange light flashed in his eyes, and he was somewhat surprised. And he Wu in he chi he. Wu, he Xiao Chen, was he comma with comma, he drawing he dao xiao, he. What shocked him was Xiao Chen's drawing the saber. What shocked Wu Yuankai was Xiao Chen's drawing the saber. Martial monarchs of the same generation, even cultivators with higher cultivations than Xiao Chen, felt suppressed on the spot. However, to Xiao Chen this was nothing. He had already condensed his own heavenly sage laws. His aura contained the might of a sage, so he did not fear it at all. However, to Wu Yuankai, this was nothing. He had already condensed his own heavenly sage laws. His aura contained the might of a sage, so he did not feel any fear. Interesting. What a strange drawing the saber. He infused his aura and state into his saber technique. However, it does not look perfect. Wu Yuankai's lips curled up. Although he was shocked, he did not feel much pressure. He appeared very relaxed. Good. Watch as I capture you and force out this drawing the saber. Ha! Xiao. Wu Yuankai stepped forward. Amid the strong wind and lightning, he charged forward with an indomitable will. However, just as Wu Yuankai took half a step forward, he suddenly discovered 34 images leaping out of the boundlessly distant white figure. Each image represented a trajectory of the saber. 34 different saber positions sealed off all possible routes of escape for Wu Yuankai. Wu Yuankai's feet shrank back as he quickly retreated. His relaxed demeanor now had a grave expression. Xiao Chen looked forward and saw a strong wind howling endlessly. Thunder rumbled in the dark clouds above. Occasionally, purple lightning tore through the sky. That insignificant figure did not move at all. Xiao Chen continued to hide his body under the sky, looking at Xiao Chen coldly from 5,000 kilometers away. Strange. Unexpectedly, this drawing the saber has such a name. Wu Yuankai no longer dared to be careless. The 10-odd red ribbons of light behind him suddenly brightened. As the light flickered, it became as red as blood. Its aura flourished as it rose continuously. Xiao Chen thought to himself that it was unfortunate. If this person had walked up without any fear earlier, he would have died. If this person had walked up without any fear, he would have used the Qing Emperor's drawing the saber to strike the careless person in an instant. Xiao Chen would have been able to gain the initiative in one move. Advancing or retreating would have been under Xiao Chen's control. Unfortunately, this person was extremely cautious. The moment he took half a step forward, he immediately reacted. He would not give Xiao Chen such a good opportunity. As the two auras clashed in the courtyard, the atmosphere instantly turned extremely stifling. Strong winds, lightning, scarlet light, and anguished cries all tangled together, giving off dull sounds of collisions. Kasi. The ground cracked bit by bit. Many cracks spread out like a spider web. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. There was no lack of experts in the surroundings of the inn. Several of them immediately sensed the stifling aura. They looked around and quickly rushed over. Night battles were not rare in the chaotic provincial capital. However, few were like this. Before it even started, everyone already felt that something was wrong. This is definitely not a fight between nobodies. It must be a fight between experts. The cultivators who came to Hunluo City were definitely not good people. Aside from being able to watch the excitement, they might even be able to pick up some unexpected benefits. Soon, hundreds of cultivators gathered around Xiao Chen's courtyard. They all stared at the two below with fervent gazes. When these people clearly saw Wu Yuankai's face, they all showed horrified expressions. They could not help but take a few steps back. It's Wu Yuankai. He is one of Hunluo City's 10 great evildoers, an existence ranked 20th in the Tianwu domain's evil cultivator gang. How can it be him? This old fellow has not come out for a long time already. The two people in the courtyard did not care about the commotion outside. The instant Wu Yuankai's aura reached its peak, he stopped hesitating and attacked decisively. The scarlet light around Wu Yuankai was frighteningly dense. Countless sinister monstrous heads moved up and down, opening their mouths and roaring with all their might. All sorts of negative emotions, massacre, berserk, chaos, grief and fear, surged toward Xiao Chun like the tide, entering his sea of consciousness. The vast mental energy in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness turned into a golden sea that reverberated. With a huge wave, it shattered all these negative emotions. The horrifying baleful aura did not affect Xiao Chen at all. Xiao Chen's hidden body calmly watched Wu Yuankai fly over. After 2 breaths, Xiao Chen's right hand, which was on the saber hilt, moved. Amid the strong wind and lightning, the resplendent saber light seemed to traverse 5,000 kilometers, arriving in an instant. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out in the dark night. In an instant, the courtyard was shattered by the 2 strong forces. The ground, which had already cracked long ago, could no longer endure it. With a loud rumble, it completely crumbled. Thousands upon thousands of huge rocks flew into the air, turning the place chaotic. Pussy. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Xiao Chen's mouth. His figure was sent flying backward continuously. Huge rocks were smashed into pieces by his body one after another. Wu Yuankai, who was in the air, did not move at all. However, there was a horrifying saber wound on his chest. The remnant electricity in the wound sizzled continuously. The electricity poured into Wu Yuankai's body, wreaking havoc. Wu Yuankai's lips twitched, and his thick eyebrows knitted tightly. When Wu Yuankai looked down, he saw the 8-centimeter-long saber wound on his chest, which broke through his inner armor. An expression of disbelief flashed in his eyes. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Wu Yuankai's body had dodged more than 30 times according to Xiao Chen's movements in order to avoid the omnipresent trajectory of the saber. Originally, Wu Yuankai thought that he had completely seen through the trajectory of Xiao Chen's saber. However, in the final instant of the exchange, he missed and got struck by Xiao Chen's saber. However, Wu Yuankai's reaction was very fast. His combat experience prevented him from panicking. The moment the saber light touched Wu Yuankai's chest, he struck Xiao Chen's right shoulder with a palm strike. The surging palm force knocked Xiao Chen back, not giving Xiao Chen any chance to deepen his wound. The tyrannical palm force pierced through Xiao Chen's protective quintessence and the light barrier within him, weakening it by 50 to 60%. However, it still injured Xiao Chen. If not for Xiao Chen's physical body already reaching rank 1 sage body, this palm strike would have shattered all of Xiao Chen's internal organs. Even if this person's strength was not comparable to Bai Wushiue's, he was not far from it. Bang! Xiao Chen stabilized his figure and stood on a huge rock. His body leaned forward slightly as he held his saber with one hand. His gaze was as sharp as a weapon as he looked at Wu Yuankai coldly. Wu Yuankai is injured. Peering through the flying rocks, the many cultivators on the buildings around the inn saw the wound on Wu Yuankai's chest. Shock flashed in the depths of their eyes. Strange, who is this brat? He is so young, yet he can fight Wu Yuankai on equal footing and even injure him. Wu Yuankai's cultivation has already reached rank 2 half-sage. His reputation as one of the 10 evildoers is not for nothing. Since when could a nameless brat injure him? Haha. This is a good show to watch. Wu Yuankai has been killing people for the past few decades. Who knows how much wealth he has robbed? If something happens to him, our opportunity might come. Some people were shocked, but even more people harbored evil intentions. They revealed a murderous intent in their eyes as they stared at Wu Yuankai. This was Hunluo City. None of the cultivators who came here were cowards. Even if one was infamous, once one revealed a weakened state and was severely injured, no one would mind beating up a drowning dog. However, by relying on the state of thunder, the state of massacre, and the great perfection saber images, he is not at a disadvantage even after 200 moves. However, compared to Wu Yuankai, he is still a bit lacking. Once the painting of the 9 nether purgatory is executed, it is as if the true purgatory has descended. Not only will the target's mind be in chaos, but even the heavenly mountain frigid iron will be corroded by the netherworld river. The scope of the battle expanded. When the cultivators learned that it was one of the 10 evils, Wu Yuankai, who made a move, the number of cultivators who heard the news increased tenfold. When they saw Wu Yuankai's fist explode and form the aura of the 9 nether purgatory, they all sighed in praise. Xiaochen casually swung his saber and tore apart a fist. When he saw the various horrifying mysterious phenomena above the vast underworld river, his lips curled up in a cold smile. Even the true purgatory cannot trap me. What more, this is just a mysterious phenomenon. Hidden dragon in the abyss, soaring dragon in the sky. Xiaochen held his saber horizontally as he stood upright. As he watched the 9 nether purgatory approach, a vast dragon roar came from his chest. The purple clouds in Xiaochen's dantian scattered and turned into dense quintessence, spreading to every corner of Xiaochen's body. The true dragon soared and quickly accumulated its momentum. Its energy was like a mountain flood, boundlessly vast. Xiaochen could not help but let out a long roar, causing the immortal lightning in the sky to roar continuously. Lightning tore through the night sky, looking like the sky was going to press down. Xiaochen took a step forward, and the night sky suddenly trembled. His body became like a true dragon as it tore through space and soared into the sky. Body and saber merged. The true dragon is me, and I am the true dragon. Thousands of inextinguishable sharpness, vast and endless rage, only I am undefeatable. What 9 underworld river? What limitless purgatory? What ghost cries and wolf howls? What demons and ghosts? Break. The true dragon soared, shaking the sky and the earth. No one could stop it. The electric light illuminated Xiaochen's roar immediately attracted the gazes of countless people. Suddenly, Xiaochen seemed to turn into a raging true dragon charging over. Bang, bang, bang. The surging underworld river, the many malevolent evil spirits, and the many aggrieved spirits wailing in agony shattered continuously. Saber lights flashed as the 9 layers of purgatory appeared. The saber light instantly tore the 9 nether purgatory to shreds, and the horrifying mysterious phenomena vanished. How can this be? This brat tore the 9 nether purgatory apart. In a competition of heaven-ranked martial techniques, power, Wu Yuankai actually lost. Startled cries rang out. No one had expected Xiaochen to break Wu Yuankai's trump card so decisively without leaving a trace. Ghostly image chop. Charging over, Xiaochen seized the initiative. He did not hesitate to execute his heaven-ranked martial technique. The shock in Wu Yuankai's eyes was no less than anyone else's. However, he was calmer than anyone else. When he saw Xiaochen charging over, his figure flashed, and he quickly punched to block. Dang, dang, dang. Wu Yuankai received the 72 saber images that Xiaochen sent out. The dark gold gloves and the lunar shadow saber created sparks as they clashed. The dark gold gloves were at least a superior grade secret treasure. When Xiaochen's saber containing his great perfection saber intent chopped down on them, he did not leave any marks. Xiaochen even managed to deflect some of the force, reducing some of the pressure on Wu Yuankai. After Wu Yuankai received the 72 saber images that Xiaochen sent out without any pressure, his lips curled up into a smile. He said, "You overestimate yourself. Do you think that by breaking my 9 nether purgatory, you can suppress me? You still dare to take the initiative to approach me? Are you tired of living?" The red heavenly sage laws behind Wu Yuankai fluctuated intensely. A ferocious light flashed in his eyes as he quickly accumulated quintessence. He prepared to use the opportunity when Xiaochen got close to him to explode him with a punch. Xiaochen smiled faintly. How could ghostly image chop be as simple as his opponent thought? He twisted his wrist and quickly drew a circle with his saber. Boom! A sea of electricity suddenly appeared. Electricity flashed as it surged towards Wu Yuankai, accompanied by the sound of surging waves. The sudden appearance of the vast sea of electricity startled Wu Yuankai. He quickly withdrew the quintessence he had accumulated and retreated. However, the sea of electricity surged like a tidal wave, chasing after him. The sea was boundless, and the electric light was vast. Before the sea of electricity, Wu Yuankai's figure looked very insignificant. Such a huge mysterious phenomenon. This brat is only a superior grade martial monarch. How can he support his quintessence? Wu Yuankai was very knowledgeable. With one glance, he could tell that the sea of electricity required a vast amount of quintessence. He felt astonished and confused, unable to understand. Even with Wu Yuankai's half-sage cultivation, it was not easy for him to support such a vast mysterious phenomenon. Without finding any openings, the amount of veritable essence energy needed to clash head-on with this move would be several times that of Xiao Chen's. However, at this moment, the surging sea of electricity and surging waves approached him with a vast aura. Wu Yuankai could no longer hesitate. 9 Revolution Underworld River Transformation. Wu Yuankai roared ferociously, and the scarlet heavenly sage laws behind him quickly dimmed. The quintessence in his body erupted like a volcano. Wu Yuankai punched furiously, and the ancient and mysterious underworld river in the 9 layers of purgatory seemed to respond to his call. The sound of splashing water came from above. Space trembled, and a river covered in black chi appeared out of nowhere. It circled around Wu Yuankai 9 times, forming a 9 spiraling river in the air, completely shielding Wu Yuankai from view. Black chi spread out, and countless aggrieved spirits, withered bones, and mangled corpses wandered in the black river. It looked like a real underworld river, looking very horrifying. Bang! The sea of electricity and the 9 layers of underworld river clashed, producing a loud sound. Waves of alternating purple and black surged out, emptying everything within 3 kilometers. Wu Yuankai moved back 100 meters. Because he had exhausted a large amount of quintessence, his complexion was somewhat pale. The heavenly sage laws behind him, which were hard to see with the naked eye, quickly undulated, trying to make up for the lost quintessence. However, this move exhausted a lot of quintessence. Unless Wu Yuankai stopped fighting and immediately rested, it would be impossible to recover in a short time by relying on the 10-odd heavenly sage laws. The most important thing was that Xiao Chen would not give Wu Yuankai any chance to catch his breath. He could not drag out a fight with a half-sage who comprehended heavenly sage laws. Amid the scattering sea of electricity, Xiao Chen hit his aura and vomited a mouthful of blood. Then, a strand of saber light flashed out. The purple saber light was like a rainbow in the night sky, like a meteor. It disappeared in an instant, untraceable and unfathomable. Suddenly, Wu Yuankai sensed death in his heart, startling him. He quickly stopped recovering his quintessence and focused his mind to its limits. He did not dare to be careless. Relying on his instincts, Wu Yuankai turned around and quickly clasped his gloved hands to his chest. Dang! Electric light burst out, and Wu Yuankai took 100 steps back. With every step he took, space trembled intensely. The tip of the lunar shadow saber was caught by the pair of dark gold gloves. When it came into contact with Wu Yuankai's inner vest, it could not advance any further. Amid the howling wind, the two's clothes fluttered wildly. Wu Yuankai looked at Xiao Chen, whose weapon was caught. He smiled coldly and said, "You can die now." In Wu Yuankai's opinion, he had caught Xiao Chen's weapon and put him in a difficult position. This was the best opportunity to kill him. Xiao Chen would die for sure. Right after Wu Yuankai spoke, a mountain-like sovereign's aura suddenly came from Xiao Chen's body. In the distant past, the legendary and glorious emperor seemed to have appeared before Wu Yuankai's eyes. Wu Yuankai's mind paused for a moment, and he could not help but loosen his grip on the saber. Xiao Chen took advantage of this opportunity and pulled back, drawing the lunar shadow saber. Blue dragon goes to sea. Wu Yuankai swung his saber, and a dragon-shaped saber chi covered in auspicious clouds instantly took shape. Then, Xiao Chen spun around and chopped at his opponent like a blue dragon breaking out of the sea. Wu Yuankai had just recovered his wits from the shock of the sovereign's aura when the blue dragon goes to sea attacked. In his haste, he did not have time to gather his quintessence, so he punched. Chapter 748. Wuxia. Blood leaked out of Wu Yuankai's lips as he flew back a kilometer before everyone's astonished gazes. Chase. As Wu Yuankai watched Xiaochen charge over on the blue dragon, he roared in his heart, burning with rage. This brat really thought that he could not defeat this return of the blue dragon. Xiaochen just did not have a chance to accumulate quintessence. Wu Yuankai's face radiated murderous intent as he made up his mind. As long as Xiaochen came again, he would teach him a ruthless lesson. When Xiaochen was about 100 meters away, he suddenly let out a long roar. The voice of a true dragon resounded in Wu Yuankai's mind like thunder. Wu Yuankai's mind buzzed, and he felt a splitting headache. Fortunately, Wu Yuankai was a half-sage. His mental energy was not something a spirit beast or a regular person could compare to. He circulated his mental energy frantically and recovered. However, at this moment, Xiaochen charged over again with the dragon-shaped saber chi and the blue dragon. Bang! Another loud sound rang out. Wu Yuankai barely managed to block it before flying back another kilometer. Something's not right. Since when could Wu Yuankai not even block a heaven-ranked martial technique? Unexpectedly, he got knocked back twice in a row. This is too incredible. When the cultivators watching from the distant roofs saw Wu Yuankai get knocked back twice, their eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Wu Yuankai stabilized the surging quintessence in his body and glanced at Xiaochen. After checking for a while, he discovered that Xiaochen's quintessence was almost depleted. The electric light on the saber was now much dimmer than it was at the start. Only faint sparks of electricity leaped around weakly. Regular superior-grade martial monarchs could execute a heaven-ranked martial technique 3 times at most before they became extremely weak, no longer having any combat prowess. Only Xiaochen refined his quintessence twice in every cultivation realm, and consumed the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. Only then could Xiaochen continuously execute heaven-ranked martial techniques, after exchanging 100 moves with Wu Yuankai without showing any signs of fatigue. Let's see what other trump cards you have. Wu Yuankai flashed forward and wiped off the blood at the corner of his lips. A ferocious light appeared in his eyes as he looked at Xiaochen. He said in a cold voice, "Are you still going to come? If you have any abilities, bring them all out." Xiaochen's white robes fluttered as he casually waved his hand and sheathed the lunar shadow saber. He looked calmly at the other party and said, "You do not have much quintessence left, right? If you are determined, then make your move. Even if you kill me, you will exhaust all your quintessence and be killed by your enemies." Wu Yuankai only had a third of his true essence remaining. He had been attacked several times by Xiaochen, and his consumption of true essence was several times that of Xiaochen. If Xiaochen had not comprehended 10-odd heavenly sage laws, he would have drained his quintessence long ago, no better off than Xiaochen. Trying to scare me? You're still too inexperienced. Wu Yuankai's face sank. He felt that he was being overly suspicious. He should have just killed this brat with a single punch. Xiaochen remained unperturbed. The depths of his eyes were like an ancient well. He circulated all his vital chi and clashed with the jet black fist. Bang! 1,000 tons of vital chi burst out. When the two fists clashed, ripples spread out in all directions. Xiaochen took 100 steps back. Although the force of his opponent's quintessence dissipated significantly, Wu Yuankai did not have any quintessence protecting his body. He could only rely on his strong physical body and the light membrane in his body. Even so, he was still significantly injured. Blood leaked out of a corner of Wu Yuankai's lips, and his delicate face paled. Physical body cultivator. You are a physical body cultivator. When the two fists clashed, Wu Yuankai clearly had the upper hand. However, his expression was more flustered and shocked than Xiaochen's. Xiaochen did not deny it. He said in a clear voice, "A casual punch of mine has 1,000 tons of force. When I burn my vital chi, I can achieve more than 1,000 tons of force. Exhausting most of your quintessence would not be a problem at all. Do you still think I am lying to you?" Damn it. Wu Yuankai felt conflicted in his heart. He hated that he could not kill Xiaochen now. However, what Xiao Chun said was true. Even if he killed Xiao Chun, he would exhaust most of his quintessence. There were many people in Hunluo City who hated Wu Yuankai to the bone. There were even more people who wanted to snatch his treasures. Killing Xiao Chun was equivalent to forcing himself into a dead end. Wu Yuankai casually looked around and saw several gazes filled with ill intentions. Why are you still not scramming? Do you really want to throw away your old life here? Xiao Chun shouted. His voice was like thunder, startling the hesitant Wu Yuankai into trembling. After being insulted by Xiao Chun, Wu Yuankai immediately wanted to kill Xiao Chun. However, when he saw the incessant sharpness in Xiao Chun's eyes and that decisive aura, Wu Yuankai subconsciously shrank back. He pointed angrily at Xiao Chun and said, "Just you wait. I will come and take your life in 10 days. After saying that, Wu Yuankai flung his sleeves and quickly left in a flash. The slender heavenly sage laws behind him undulated, showing how sullen Wu Yuankai felt. Xiao, Xiao, Xiao. In the dark night, several figures with ill intentions followed the direction Wu Yuankai left, disappearing into the darkness. Inside the immortal spirit ring, Ao Jiao opened her eyes wide. She said incredulously, "Xiao Chun, you really scared him away." Xiao Chun said disapprovingly, "This kind of old thing has committed endless sins and killed countless people. He looks like he does not fear death. In reality, he is more worried about his life than anyone else. He has lost his sharpness. No matter how strong he is, there is no need to fear him." Ao Jiao said, "You have to be careful. I feel that there are a few gazes on you. It's fine. This person lured away the big fish. Some Yu clan members want to probe me. I do not mind starting a massacre. Come, let's go directly to the auction house." Not long after, as Ao Jiao said, a slender black-robed man blocked Xiao Chen's path. That black-robed man had a fiend chi that was different from a human's, sinister and crafty. This person was actually a fiend race loose cultivator. Based on his cultivation, he should be a superior grade martial monarch. If he revealed his true form, he should be a peak superior grade martial monarch. Be more proactive and toss out the spatial ring in your hand. I can give you a quick death. The fiend race loose cultivator smiled and stuck out his scarlet tongue, giving off a hissing sound. Just kill him. This fellow is a cultivator of the fiend domain snake race. If he reveals his true form, he will be especially difficult to deal with, Ao Jiao said quickly from the immortal spirit ring. Xiao Chun removed the universe ring in his hand and casually tossed it at this person. Clearly, that snake race cultivator had not expected such a decisive attitude. He only reacted after a while and laughed loudly. Then he stretched out his hand to catch the universe ring. "Brat, you are rather tactful. I can choose not to kill you." Bang, bang, bang. The instant Xiao Chun focused his gaze on the universe ring, his vital qi surged through his entire body like a river, giving off rumbling sounds. Xiao Chun took 3 quick steps forward. 1,000,000 kilograms of force struck the ground, causing the sturdy ground to tremble continuously. This startled the snake race loose cultivator. However, Xiao Chun had already arrived before him. He burned most of his vital qi and punched. The wind from the fist surged, and the force exploded violently. The sound of thunder shook the air, and the roofs of the surrounding buildings were directly overturned. After burning his vital qi, Xiao Chen's punch carried 1,400 tons of force. It pierced through the snake race cultivator's protective quintessence. The ferocious force immediately shattered his internal organs. The snake race cultivator's hand slackened, and he vomited a mouthful of blood before falling over. Xiao Chun grabbed the universe ring in the air. Then he looked around coldly. Xiao Chun waved his hand and continued forward without looking back. When the restless figures hidden in the darkness saw this scene, they no longer dared to have any other thoughts. They looked at Xiao Chen's departing figure with horrified gazes. Probably by tomorrow, the news of a nameless brat forcing Wu Yuankai to retreat will spread throughout the city. Wu Yuankai is guilty of many crimes. His infamy has spread far and wide. Unexpectedly, a superior-grade martial monarch chased him away. I wonder where this ruthless person came from. I have never heard of him before. Recently, Hunluo City has been extraordinarily chaotic. For the sake of the Thunder King's broken sword, several martial sages in seclusion have rushed over. For some reason, the top true inheritors of the 6 major factions have all rushed over as well. Soft discussions resounded in the crowd. As they watched Xiaochen leave, they sighed. When the sky brightened, Xiaochen appeared below the Flourishing Heaven auction house. Xiaochen did not know what the Flourishing Heaven auction house was, but the area within 3 kilometers of it was very peaceful. Several of the ferocious loose cultivators forcefully suppressed their baleful auras. The chaotic situation in other places was a stark contrast to this place. Due to the grand auction in 3 days, there were many cultivators coming and going to the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion. According to the information that Xiaochen obtained, not only would the broken sword of the Thunder King's Thunder sword be auctioned in 3 days, but there would also be many other precious treasures. Secret treasures, martial techniques, spirit pills, natural treasures, medicinal pill recipes, and many more. As the only auction house in Hunluo City, the bustling scene was predictable. As Xiaochen followed the crowd, he could sense several strong cultivators. Xiaochen noticed 4 or 5 martial sages who hid their auras. The heavenly sage laws behind these people, which could not be seen with the naked eye, were all finger-sized. Furthermore, there were many of them. As they moved up and down, vast spiritual energy poured into their bodies. Wu Yuankai's needle-sized heavenly sage laws could not compare to these people's. It was like comparing a child to an adult. In a fight, these martial sages would be able to crush Wu Yuankai with one punch. Furthermore, the auction had not officially started yet. If it were 3 days later, there would be even more martial sages. Xiaochen frowned slightly. With the 100,000 astral coins on hand, he would not be able to obtain the broken sword of the Thunder King's Thunderwood sword. As for snatching it by force, that was even more impossible. After entering the interior of the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion, Xiaochen was immediately dazzled by the treasures in the various cabinets. Several items for auction were displayed in the resplendent hall. With a few casual glances, Xiaochen discovered several items that interested him. However, when he saw the buyout prices, he could only smile bitterly and withdraw his thoughts. The items that could be displayed in advance would not be the finale of the auction. In other words, the actual auction would be even more shocking than the treasures before him. Xiaochen muttered to himself. I wonder what is the background of the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion? How is it able to maintain such a grand display in Hunluo City's provincial capital? When Ao Jiao heard this, she said sullenly, they have a great background. 5,000 years ago, the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion already existed. Their auctions are spread throughout the entire Kunlun realm. They also have an auction in the inner city of your Haotian city. Chapter 749. In addition to auctions, they also run many other businesses such as selling intelligence, processing secret treasures, forging star coins, space exploration, hiring armies, and even auctioning great thousand worlds. After hearing this, Xiaochen could not help but feel a headache. He secretly clicked his tongue. How is this possible? With such a huge force, wouldn't it be comparable to Bushan Palace? Ao Jiao smiled faintly and said, in the future, you will know how vast and ancient the Kunlun realm is. It far surpasses your imagination. Several of the ancient sovereign noble clans have even more ancient histories than the Bushan Palace. They have existed for a very long time, becoming immortal. Xiaochen chatted with Ao Jiao about the past of the Kunlun realm as he casually walked around the hall, admiring the treasures for auction. Suddenly, his eyes focused on a crystal cabinet. Inside was a piece of beast hide paper, which was the formula for a medicinal pill. The breaking sage pill could increase the chances of a cultivator breaking through the bottleneck of martial sage. The price was 30,000 astral coins. A fixed price meant that if a guest could pay that many astral coins, they could take this item away and not appear in the auction. Strange, why does such a precious pill formula only cost 30,000 star coins? Xiaochen summoned a pretty maidservant in the hall and voiced his doubts. The bottleneck to martial sage was extremely difficult. How could this alchemic recipe only be worth this much astral coins? The pretty maidservant explained with a smile, Honored guest, this alchemic recipe uses the refining methods of the immortal epoch. Ever since Grandmaster Jin was killed in the Kunlun realm, this refining method became extinct. Master Jin was a famous Grandmaster alchemist in the history of the Kunlun realm. His achievements on the path of alchemy were so great that later generations could not even see his back. Rumor had it that Xiaoqun possessed a spiritual bone and brimmed with talent. In an immortal sect remnant, he obtained the immortal epoch's alchemy methods. After modifying them, he created many peak-grade alchemic recipes. Unfortunately, his appearance destroyed the benefits of the original orthodox alchemists, and he died in an assassination before he was even 30 years old. The breaking sage pill in front of him was a top-grade pill. Even his descendants were unable to learn his pill concoction method. In addition, he had passed away early, so this pill formula had become a mere decoration. There were many similar alchemic recipes circulating in the Kunlun realm. Several alchemists did not believe in heresy and bought them to study. However, not long after, they would return the price at half price. That was because the strange refining method left them completely confused. It had nothing to do with the refining method that they had been taught. They couldn't figure it out at all. After listening, Xiaoqun's heart thumped loudly. However, his expression did not change. He smiled and said, "You are quite honest. You told me everything in detail." The maid smiled tenderly and said, "It's not a secret. That customer must have suffered a great loss to sell it at such a low price. However, with this fixed price of 30,000 star coins, I reckon that no one will buy it. The chances of it being auctioned off in 2 days is very high." "I'll buy it," Xiaoqun said to the maid as he looked at the alchemic recipe under the crystal glass with a fervent gaze. Shock flashed in the maid's eyes. She felt it was strange. Why did Xiaoqun still want to buy this alchemic recipe when he knew about its uniqueness? However, there were always some people in this world who would not give up until they ran into a wall. The maid quickly recovered her wits and said, "In that case, come with me to the back to settle the bill. I will bring the alchemic recipe to you immediately." "Wait a moment. You should be collecting dragon bones, right?" 30,000 astral coins was actually quite a lot. A regular half-sage would only have about 200,000 astral coins. As for Xiaoqun, he only had 100,000 astral coins. Spending 30,000 astral coins in one go would inevitably hurt Xiaoqun. Then he thought of the most valuable treasure in his hands. The maidservant leading the way said calmly, "Dragon bones? Coiling dragon bones? Earth dragon bones? Fire dragon bones? Flood dragon bones? Dragon bones? Dragon bones? Dragon bones? Dragon bones? Dragon bones? True dragon bones." The maid instantly stopped and quickly turned around. Then she revealed the sincerest smile and said, "True dragon bones. I'll bring you to the VIP room. A venerate will personally receive you." The pretty maid's expression when she heard about true dragon bones astonished Xiaoqun. "It looks like I underestimated the value of true dragon bones." "That is true. Aside from the dragon burial mound, it is hard to find another place with true dragon bones in the vast Kunlun realm. Furthermore, the true dragon cave is not a place you can enter just because you are strong. Most of it depends on luck. In that case, I can probably sell it for a good price. I have more than 100 pieces of true dragon bones. Perhaps I can really redeem you." "Ha! In that case, you are too naive. How can I be worth so little astral coins? You'd better save them for the things you need." Following behind the maid, Xiaoqun and Ao Jiao quickly conversed. Soon, they arrived at the VIP room on the 3rd floor. The maid smiled and poured a cup of tea for Xiaoqun. "Please have some tea. I already sent someone to inform the venerates. They will not take long." After knowing that Xiaoqun was selling true dragon bones, the attitude of the maidservant before him underwent a complete change, becoming extremely attentive to his needs. Xiaoqun held the teacup made of glazed purple crystal jade, and smiled faintly as he received the teacup. "I am Xiaomei. I have not asked for young master's name, and which sect you are from." The maid named Xiaomei exuded a boundless charm. She started to try to worm information out of Xiaoqun. After taking a sip of tea, Xiaochen put down the teacup and glanced at the girl. He said softly, I am from the Haotian sect Xiaochen. Naturally, Xiaochen would not be easily tempted by this girl. As they chatted, the other party did not manage to obtain any useful information. Creak! Not long after, the doors to the VIP room opened. A noble girl wearing purple phoenix robes walked in leisurely. Her jet black hair was coiled into a cloud-like bun, and adorned with a simple colored phoenix hair ornament. She gave off a feeling that she was ambitious, and that she was going straight to the clouds. Her eyes were like autumn water, and her skin was as lustrous as white jade. This girl exuded an air of nobility. Of all the girls that Xiaochen had seen, only Princess Yingyu could suppress her. Xiaomei, you may withdraw first. I will entertain this young master. The maid's red lips parted, and her voice was as clear as flowing water. It was very memorable. Xiaomei was somewhat startled. She did not know why the one who came was a grand venerate, Nangong Qiong. She replied respectfully and withdrew. Supreme Sky Sex Xiaochen, the bearer of the Sky Dome Realm's luck. 3 months ago, you fought against by Wuxia at the Dragon Burial Mound, and did not lose 100 moves. Last night, when you fought with Wu Yuankai, you were the one who chased him away. The noble girl smiled gently as she looked at Xiaochen with a pair of charming eyes. Ao Jiao had already introduced the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion's origins. The moment the other party opened her mouth, she revealed her identity. Xiaochen was not surprised. He sat calmly on the rattan chair, and raised his eyelids slightly. He looked at the other party calmly and said, That is me. However, I do not like to speak nonsense, especially with strangers. Stop trying to probe me. Clearly, this girl had never met someone as direct as Xiaochen before. He did not bother with pleasantries and went straight to the point. Clearly, she was not used to it. Take out the dragon bones. Let me take a look. Xiaochen casually tossed, and a segment of true dragon remained slowly drifted towards the other party. Nangong Qiong quickly caught the dragon bone with her lily-white hands. With one look, she knew that it was real. She raised her head and said, It is indeed a true dragon bone. Although it is a subordinate dragon of a low status, it is still very valuable. This segment can be exchanged for 2,000 astral coins. 2,000 astral coins. Xiaochen had more than 100 segments. He kept some for his own use and sold 100 segments. That was 200,000 astral coins. Xiaochen had not expected the true dragon bone in his hands to be so valuable. Given this, he would not need to be a spectator in this auction. Deal. I have 100 segments of true dragon bone. We can make the transaction now. Nangong Qiong had not expected such a large sum. She hesitated for a while, but did not rush to speak. Xiaochen frowned and asked, What's wrong? You don't believe me? Or does your Flourishing Heaven Pavilion feel that there is no need to collect so many true dragon bones? No. Young master, don't misunderstand. True dragon bones have always been rare, and have many wondrous uses. Naturally, the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion will not complain about having too many. However, if you sell such a large number of dragon bones to me in Hunluo City, you will suffer a great loss. Xiaochen asked interestedly, What do you mean? It is just across from the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion. The shops of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School purchase dragon bones all year round. Furthermore, they sell them at twice the market price. After understanding the situation, Xiaochen smiled faintly. Then he looked at the other party and said, You are an interesting person. Instead of doing business, you are pushing it away. Hand over the alchemic recipe. I'll buy it. No matter how interesting the other party was, Xiaochen could not let himself suffer a loss. Naturally, he would not come here to sell the dragon bones. Nangong Qiong felt somewhat angry. Earlier, this fellow was praising her. Now he changed the topic and made his intentions clear. Nangong Qiong handed over the alchemic recipe for the Breaking Sage pill and said, This Breaking Sage pill is priced at 30,000 astral coins. Actually, that is an exorbitant price. If you really want to buy it, the base price of 10,000 astral coins is more than enough. Oh, in that case, I'll auction it off in 2 days. Goodbye, Xiaochen said as he stood up. Seeing Xiaochen leave just like that, Nangong Qiong felt extremely depressed. Before she could finish speaking, Xiaochen had already opened the door and left, disappearing long ago. Outside the flourishing heaven pavilion, Ao Jiao felt suspicious. She said, "It looks like that girl still has something to say. Why did you not give her a chance at all?" Xiaochen said softly, "This woman's origins are unknown. She is strong and has many thoughts. It is best to have less contact with her. I wonder, why is this Eternal Heavenly Sword School spending so much money to purchase dragon bones?" Ao Jiao analyzed rationally. It should be to refine medicinal pills. True dragon remains are an essential ingredient for many sage-grade medicinal pills. Such a large-scale purchase shows that the success rate of this medicinal pill is much lower than that of a regular sage-grade medicinal pill. They need to have sufficient true dragon remains. Xiaochen raised his head and looked to the front. Then he said, "We have arrived at the Eternal Heavenly Herb Store." What Nangong Qiong said was true. There was indeed an Eternal Heavenly Sword School herb store across from the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion. They could see it after a few steps. After entering, Xiaochen stated his purpose for coming. The manager immediately beamed with joy and completed the transaction with Xiaochen. The 100-segment True Dragon remains were exchanged for a total of 400,000 astral coins. This way, Xiaochen had more than 500,000 astral coins on him. Chapter 750. A regular inferior grade martial sage would be worth no more than 2 million astral coins. Given Xiaochen's current cultivation, 500,000 astral coins would be an instant fortune. "Young master, please wait a moment. Our young master would like to invite you upstairs for a chat." After the transaction, the plump shopkeeper invited Xiaochen. This herb store belonged to the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. The young master that the shopkeeper mentioned should be the top true inheritor of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School, Mo Lingtian. The Eternal Heavenly Sword School wanted to auction off the broken part of the Thunder King's Thunderwood sword. It was not strange that the top true inheritor of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School would come personally. Xiaochen had long wanted to see the Eternal Heavenly Sword School for himself. He did not hesitate to agree. On the second floor, Xiaochen saw the young master that the shopkeeper mentioned. He was about 27 or 28 years old, considered very young in the Kunlun realm. Mo Lingtian looked handsome, and had a deep cultivation, a half-sage. Sparks of electricity leaped about in the depths of his eyes. An indistinct sword intent occasionally flickered in the electric light. Behind Mo Lingtian, Xiaochen looked carefully and discovered heavenly sage laws comparable to Wu Yuankai's. This person was not simple. However, this was not what Xiaochen was concerned about. What he was more concerned about was that when Mo Lingtian first saw him, a hard-to-detect killing intent flashed in his eyes. "White-robed bladesman, I have heard of your great name long ago. You should have obtained these 100 pieces of true dragon bones at the dragon burial mound, right? It looks like the rumor of you receiving 100 moves from Bai Wuxia is true." Although Mo Lingtian said this, the arrogance on his face did not diminish. He did not truly care about Xiaochen. If not for the savage battlefield being so far from Hunluo City, I believe we would have met already. Xiaochen casually replied, waiting for the other party to get to the point. Mo Lingtian asked in an aloof manner, "Half a month ago, you killed 2 half-sages near Azure Peak City. Is that true?" "Yes, I did indeed kill 2 blind half-sages. Does your distinguished self have any advice for me?" The other party's tone was unfriendly, and Xiaochen felt that something was wrong. Mo Lingtian's gaze sank. He said, "Unfortunately, those 2 clans are subordinates of my Eternal Heavenly Sword School. You killed the people of my Eternal Heavenly Sword School." So that's how it was. Xiaochen finally understood why the other party's eyes flashed with killing intent when they saw him. What a coincidence. I actually took the initiative to deliver myself to your doorstep. How does young Master Mo intend to deal with me? However, there was nothing to be afraid of. He had the support of the 9 ranks of the great families, the Haotian sect. The sect had a great emperor. Even if the other party had the guts, they would not dare to do anything to him. Mo Lingtian waved his hand casually and said disapprovingly, 2 half-sages. So what if I kill them? Furthermore, they have already pledged their allegiance to the magnificent Fiend Hall. The one who wants to kill you is the magnificent Fiend Hall. I have another purpose in looking for you. If you agree, you will be a friend of mine, Mo Lingtian. The Eternal Heavenly Sword School can also guarantee your safety. When Xiaochen heard this, he smiled coldly in his heart. Where does this Mo Lingtian get his arrogance from? Not only is there no payment, but he wants to move me with just a few empty words. Becoming friends with you, Mo Lingtian, is a very glorious thing. Do you really think that you are a martial emperor? I need your Eternal Heavenly Sword School to guarantee my safety. Since when did the Eternal Heavenly Sword School become more arrogant than the Haotian sect? How about it? I have been polite enough to you, right? Not only can I write off the matter of you killing the subordinates of my Eternal Heavenly Sword School, but we can also work together in the future. Mo Lingtian said confidently as he looked at Xiaochen. He did not want to fall out with the Eternal Heavenly Sword School so early. He still needed to help Ao Jiao figure out the true identity of the Eternal Heavenly Sword Sage. Xiaochen endured the unhappiness in his heart and revealed a smile. Young Master Mo is very magnanimous. What is it? Speak. Mo Lingtian had already expected Xiaochen's reply. He stood up and smiled. Come to my Eternal Heavenly Sword School 10 days from now. You will know then. That's right. Here is a ticket to the auction. You will be able to sit in the first 2 rows. Take it. Not just anyone can buy it. Mo Lingtian casually waved his hand and tossed a ticket to Xiaochen. He looked like he was giving away something incredible. If Mo Lingtian knew that Xiaochen did not even care about the flourishing Heaven Pavilion's Nangongqiong, he would not feel so superior. Xiaochen pretended to be pleasantly surprised. He received the ticket and said, Young Master Mo is very capable. To think that you can give away such a precious ticket so casually. Mo Lingtian raised his eyebrows slightly and revealed a cocky expression. He said, It is just a small matter. If you become my friend, I can even get you a VIP card for the flourishing Heaven Pavilion. After Xiaochen left, the door to the back of the room opened. An old man with unfathomable cultivation, and as straight as a sword appeared. Unexpectedly, he was a martial sage. The old man said with a sullen expression, Young master, do you really intend to bring him to the Heavenly Rock King's Star Grave Palace? He has caused our Eternal Heavenly Sword School to lose a lot of face. A heavy murderous intent flashed in Mo Lingtian's eyes. He said, Naturally not. If not for the Haotian sect, I would be able to squish him to death with a wave of my hand. The Star Grave Palace is filled with danger. Furthermore, martial sages and above cannot enter. When he no longer has any value, I will just kill him. No one will know that I did it. The old man said with some worry in his eyes. However, news of the opening of the Star Grave Palace has already spread. Not only will the 6 big sects of our Hunluo province rush over, but several young experts of the fiend race will also rush over. Adding such an uncertain factor into the mix, isn't that a little risky? Mo Lingtian smiled disdainfully and said, Did you see his expression just now? Just giving him some small favors and he became so happy. How could such a fellow escape from my palm? I am a peerless genius who will definitely become the everlasting Sky Emperor. Mo Lingtian smiled disdainfully. After leaving the herb store, Xiaochen casually tossed aside the ticket. Then he spent 300 astral coins to buy a seat in the first row. In the Magnificent Fiend Hall's western district, the yellow-robed man in the Magnificent Fiend Hall's branch looked at Wu Yuankai expressionlessly, clearly unhappy. What a piece of trash! He could not even deal with a superior-grade martial monarch. Furthermore, he was scared away. Wu Yuankai felt very sullen, but he could not rebut. No matter what, the fact that Xiaochen scared him away could not be changed. Wu Yuankai's face twisted in dissatisfaction. After a long time he said sullenly, I was careless. However, your people did not tell me everything. They did not say that his physical strength had already reached 100 kilograms of force. Cut the crap. I will give you 10 more days. This is your last chance, the yellow-robed man said in a cold voice. Wu Yuankai raised his head and said, The difficulty has increased. I want the remaining half of the reward. Give it to me now, or else you can go and find someone else. The yellow-robed man had not expected Wu Yuankai to raise the price. He could not help but rage in his heart. However, he endured it in the end. He tossed out a spatial ring and said, 100,000 astral coins. If you fail the mission, you can forget about remaining in Hunluo City in the future. Wu Yuankai caught the spatial ring, and a greedy expression appeared on his face. He said, don't worry. He will leave the city sooner or later. At that time, if I do not have anything to fear, he will die for sure. After Wu Yuankai left, an impressive-looking youth walked out of the hall. The fiend energy in his body surged like it would erupt at any moment. This youth's chi and blood were as vigorous as the blazing sun. As he walked, he was like a huge elephant walking on the plains, heavy and filled with power. This was a cultivator of the fiend domain's elephant race. The youth asked, what's wrong? That brat is not easy to deal with. Do you need me to make a move? When the yellow-robed man saw this youth, he immediately withdrew the rage on his face. He said, there's no need. I have already prepared a foolproof plan. Young Hall Master, there is no need to bother with such a small matter. The magnificent fiend Hall's young Hall Master did not mind. He said, how many astral coins can the branch give me? I need 3 peak defensive superior grade secret treasures for this auction. Otherwise, the Stargrave Palace will not be confident. Don't worry. The Hall Master has already informed us. 500,000 astral coins have already been prepared, the yellow-robed man said, having prepared for this long ago. The youth with surging fiend energy smiled in satisfaction. He clenched his fists tightly and said with a resolute gaze, as long as I can obtain the fragment of the Great Rock Spreading Wings painting, even if I cannot advance to Martial Sage, I will be able to obtain another 100 Heavenly Sage Laws, increasing my strength by 50%. When the yellow-robed man heard about the Great Rock Spreading Wings painting, he could not help but reveal an expression of yearning. He said, I heard that the Heavenly Rock King condensed all his comprehensions before he died into this Great Rock Spreading Wings painting. Although it has already shattered into pieces, even a martial sage would benefit greatly from it. Unfortunately, even sovereign martial emperors cannot break into that Stargrave Palace. Only those below martial sage can enter. Otherwise, this old man would join in the excitement. The youth smiled faintly and said, haha, if there are more of the painting pieces, I can bring one for Elder Huang. The yellow-robed man quickly performed a cupped fist salute and said, in that case, I thank young Hall Master in advance. 2 days later, the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion's large-scale auction began as scheduled. All the superior-grade martial monarchs and above in Hunluo City rushed over. The crowd moved like a river flowing into the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion's hall. Dressed in a black cloak, Xiaochen stood in a pavilion across the hall. When he saw this scene, he could not help but sigh. There are probably more than 6,000 people. Even a sovereign sect would not have so many superior-grade martial monarchs. There were limited seats in the auction, so only superior-grade martial monarchs could enter. However, there were still so many people rushing over. This was Xiaochen's first time seeing such a scene, so he was somewhat astonished. That is normal. More than half of the loose cultivators of the Tianwu domain and the Fiend domain are gathered here. It is not strange for so many superior-grade martial monarchs and above to arrive. Ao Jiao had seen many grand scenes before. These were much more majestic and much calmer than Xiaochen's. After 1 hour, the crowd slowly thinned. Xiaochen prepared to enter as well. Just at this moment, a familiar figure slowly appeared in Xiaochen's vision from a distance. It was a delicate and charming woman in white clothes. Her skin was white like jade, and it seemed as if it could be broken by a gust of wind. Her pure and cute face carried a natural charm. Her curvaceous and alluring body made people unable to control the flames in their hearts. With a swoosh, they started to burn. As she walked, the wine gourd hanging at her waist swayed back and forth. Her face was in high spirits, radiating charm. The moment she appeared, she attracted everyone's attention. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.